we have the political goodwill of the people, and we have the power of the people. The only ingredient that we now need to have as we take action physically is spiritual. And this is going to be my last point. One, when the people of Israel, and this is the spiritual analogy, the biblical analogy that I want to give. The last city that has had to be taken over was Jericho. Before they got to Canaan, they had to overcome Jericho. That is the moment Kenya is. That before we get to Canaan, forget the false Canaan we have been told by one man from my province. The Canaan that we have to take over, we must take control of Jericho. And this Jericho that has to fall is the present regime, which is the evil regime. And this is how Jericho fell, fellow Kenyans. Other than having the numbers and the will of the people to go out and fight, the people of the Israelites summoned the spiritual power of their God at the time. And this is what God told them to do, fellow Kenyans. And this is what I am asking us one more time to do, to go around the city, go around the city singing and praising, and go around the city believing that it will happen. We are being called upon that for 7 days we go around the city. The people must come out, and going around the city like the Israelites did requires that we come out to the streets in our numbers and we sing praises and say our deliverance has come. But as we do that, I want to implore upon us, fellow Kenyans, we must call the agents of evil by their name. Let us stop using nicknames, because when you call upon people using nicknames in the spiritual world, that disconnects them from you as you seek your freedom. We must call them by their name. So I am urging today, I have seen the call for a total shutdown starting tomorrow. Let that be the case. But as we do so, let us also identify men and women of faith who will lead in the spiritual warfare. That while the men, the brave men and women, the energetic ones, and those who can go out to the streets, we must have those of us who may not have the opportunity to go to the streets, either for reasons of geographical location or for reasons of health or whatever reason. We must be the ones that give those on the streets the and the by going down on our knees and praying wherever we will be. I want to ask that we do that business tonight, and Redemptor, Hillary, Abdi, and all those wherever we are, can we identify that group and say, we are going to be on our knees praying for the army that goes out to the street so that it can get the protection of God for this to be completed. This moment, people. This is the time I have come to deliver you. And for me to deliver you, God will always ask you to use that which you have. When Moses was faced with the sea in front of him and the Egyptians behind, God asked him, what do you have? He said he only had his rod, and that is what God used. Today, fellow Kenyans, They may have the power that we have given them. They may have all the guns that they have bought using our taxes. But I want to tell you, we have God and we have the will of the people. And when we do that, God will use that which we have. And even when it looks like it is small, He will multiply it. The gods will strengthen us. The gods will give us the spirit of Mekatilili or Menza. The gods will give us the spirits of our forefathers that fought the white men who had guns that could kill in one shot. Yet our people fought with them like they were big armies. The gods will give us the energy and the strength and the courage of the Maasai who kill lions with their bare hands. Let us not be afraid. Let us not fear, because when we fear, they get the power and they use that against us. Let us go out there and let us fight from all fronts using the spiritual weapons that we have been given. And that is what will make this and deliver us. Fellow Kenyans, I land at that point. We will continue to speak and we will continue to pray for our country. We will continue to summon the
Thank you.
strength and the courage of the gods and the spirit and the blood of our forefathers. Thank you, fellow Kenyans. Maandamano kesho and every single day until that regime is fallen, and it will be fallen, and our people will be delivered, and we will enter Canaan, the promised land. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, Dr. Ari. We really appreciate that. I see many people are coming and we have so many requests. Thank you so much for joining and we really appreciate your presence always at Pressure Point Team, the State of the Nation, and Justice for Ojwang. I want to welcome Prof. Before I welcome Kenya West. Just give me a minute. I think Prof want to say something. Then I will welcome you back after that. KOT, I see you. Welcome on board. Prof. Migai, then coming. Prof. Migai. Okay. Remember, can we hear Prof speaking?
No, I didn't hear him.
Okay. Maybe Kenya West, you can go ahead. I think he has mic issues. Then let us see what is happening.
Thank you, Hilary. Thankfully, I had to come before the prof because I was a bit. It was going to bit. Anyway, happy Father's Day to everyone. I made a few points, and I hope I'm going to shrink them just to be so brief. For those who don't know me, professional, I'm an investigative journalist, but today I just wanted to talk as a Kenyan. Okay, so just from the onset, I think one life lost is too many, and to be precise, Albert didn't deserve to die. Okay, and I want to say this: for so long, Kenya's battled a bigger problem of police brutality, and this is something that we always or we want it to come to an end. There is no excuse for police brutality. So now how now do we bring this to an end? Because we can always have so many stories, so many issues around it. How do we bring it to an end? I've thought about it, and I think the main root of police brutality, where the main root, where does it come from? It starts from the training. Why don't we really need to re-strategize or restructure things from the training program of the police? Because I think this forum is about solutions. Because even as much as we are going to as much as we want, we are pushing for Nani, for Juang's justice. what happens after? If things doesn't change, if things remain the same, there is not so much that we would have done. So one of the solutions that I'm trying to look into, we need to look into the training structure of the police. What are the AOBs that the ABs, not the AOBs? What is it that we need to do? We need to do something about the training of the police, so that the change start from the ground. Okay. And another thing, the death of this young man should not go in vain. And I think it happened. I don't know, but it is an opportunity that it has opened. It has opened a room for conversation. It is something that opened a room for talks. It has opened a room for changes. So as much as we are fighting we are fighting for justice, let's push in that at the end of the day we must have an answer, apart from the answers that we are pushing for, that the truth comes out from everything. I'm sorry, but I'm very bad when it comes to talking. I'm very good at writing, but the thing that we need to find out is, at the end of the day, after all the fights, even if you remove the government, even if you change the regime, are we going to change the police the police policies, or the police policies, I mean? That is one thing we need to look into. And I'm insisting on the training, because that is where the problem is. The police, how they're trained to look into civilians as more of like enemies, something like that. So if we can, if we can insist, that if you are going to have reforms, it must start on the training perspective. From that point, another thing, um, law and order. There is no country that can survive. There is no country that can survive without law and order, and we need that one. How now do we restore the confidence? Because as of right now, as much as I know, or even from people's view, that whatever I read from everyone, there's a low confidence when it comes to the police and the civilian relations. Now, how now do we restore that confidence? That is a very big issue that everyone need to look in. We need to look into. Another thing, when it comes to reforms, there was the formation of the IPOA, and IPOA at the moment has lost the trust of the public. I don't know how they're going to pull themselves out of it, but this is a moment for them, and everybody act, and fortunately, everyone is so active, and and so everyone is so active, and following whatever they're saying. That is why the CCTV and whatever, everything that is coming. So it is upon the IPOA. The IPOA, as if the IPOA messes this up, things are going to go awkward. So it's upon them to look up to everything. And I think my last point is about how now do we get justice to Nani, to
Ojwang, yes.
yeah, to Ojwang. The thing is, and there's so many cases that have been taken to court, and these cases, if there is no, if there is no concrete, I think the court deals with the court doesn't deal with emotions. The court deals with facts, and if the facts are not right, things are going to go wrong. So, uh, how now do we deal with the public the public opinion, or we deal with the facts that are on the ground, or whatever the facts that are there? My issue is with the IPOA, and that is why we need to give IPOA the little doubt that we have, for them to deliver for the moment. And I think I'm going to stop at there. Maybe later on I'll come back. Thank you, thank
Mm,
you, thank you,
thank
thank
you.
you, thank you, Hilary.
Thank you, Kenya West. Abdi, I can't hear you, but I see your mic is open. QT, I see you. I see Afro. Afro, thank you so much for joining us this moment. I want to bring Tomboy. You want to say something before I bring QT and Senator and Milton and Bonnie on that in that order? Oh, Cairo Beatrice, thank you so much for coming on board. Tomboy, Tomboy, you know people are so many. Guys, this is so unfortunate.
Well,
Uh, when I call you and you don't want to respond, then please give us a
well,
time.
thank,
Right, go ahead. You
thank
have
you.
a lot of
Let
noise. You have a lot of noise. You have a lot of noise.
I'm settled.
All
Thank you
right.
for the opportunity.
You, you can you're breaking a lot. You can hear you.
I
So Jensi, that
want brief.
no, Tom, you are breaking. We can't hear you. Or it is only me. Redemptor. Can you hear him?
No, it's breaking up.
Yeah, so check your network, please, and then so that other people can give them chance. It's very important. Dr. Kimani, you can pick it up there, then KOT. Thank you so much.
Asante sana, Hire. Can you hear me?
I can hear you very well, yes.
Thank you so much. I've been following silently here, so thank you so much, Redemptor, Abdi, Milton, Daktari. It is a very sad day. It has always been, I think, since the day this regime came into power, and immediately they started operating. People had so much hopes, but now I think. Those hopes have faded away, and therefore Kenya has become, as many people have called it, a crime scene. And that is where the pressure now becomes the point, and that's now where we start looking at the nation and how that state it is. Today we are looking at the state of a very failed nation, because uh, looking for justice, as Wanjiro mentioned initially, for Ojwang is not the first that we are fighting for. However, it has come to a point whereby there has to come a point where we have a cause, where we have a reason, where we have, a point to rally behind. I know Kenyans are always united, irrespective. I remember I was there when we had, Kenya for Kenyans. We had, attacks, and everybody came in big numbers to give blood for people who had been affected by the terrorism and the terrorist attacks in the past. So I'm talking about the unity of Kenyans. It is not a point of political or emotions. It's because that's who we are. Now, I think I'm joining everybody else in noting that Kenya need a serious overhaul. We need an overhaul, and I think since day one of this regime, it has been their business to dismantle, to disarrange everything that ought to have been there to provide us with order. Every day we wake up to a new thing. Today we are talking about justice for Albert Ojwang. The other day we are talking about the Shisha, Shavashi, whatever it was. The other day we are talking about education. We are talking about, don't even forget, there's a time we talked about forest being harvested. We were talking about roads. We are talking about railway. I don't know. We have been talking about so many things that this government has not found it appropriate to put them in perspective. Why? Because they have a different agenda from what Kenyans have. And therefore, we, the people, must come up, and we not we must come up. We know what we want, and that's why we have spaces like these ones where we talk about the state. What is it that we want to work for us? Because when other people elsewhere are talking about Kenya in the way they are talking about it, it is not in the it is not good at all. When you find people talking about Kenya this, Kenya that, and it is not in good reasons, we do not feel happy. Now, I think Kenya West was talking about the police reforms. Unfortunately, I happen to have been to other places where I have been an advisor to the police force in that case, and I can tell you for sure the recruitment of police forces in many places, for instance, is very different. People do not go and lower their dignity in fields where they have to go naked, half naked, let me put it that way, and then somebody has to inspect whether they have teeth or their foot are flat, whatever it is. It depends on what is it this person can bring to the force. Can they understand? Can they understand not only whatever they are told to do, can they reason with law? Can they be able to present themselves? And that's why you have seen some of these people. I am not saying that the whole police force is crooked, but I'm saying the recruitment process matters a lot, because who are the people we are putting into these forces? Is it because you know me, then you have to put my son there, although my son doesn't even understand, does not even care about humanity? Because when I go moving around talking about Utu, I talk to people who do not even understand Swahili, and I'm talking about Africa and African way of thinking and philosophy all around issues of Utu and Ubuntu. And therefore, when we see some of these things happening, doesn't make sense at all. It does not make sense at all. So I say again, we need a serious overhaul, and I believe we cannot wait until 2027 or therein to be able to do this overhaul. People of goodwill, people who know and who want to continue calling Kenya home, who want to raise the name of Kenya to where it used to be those days, must rise up and must answer to the higher calling of being the leaders we need to be in this country called Kenya. Because I still believe that until we have this mess sorted out, of the the ones that Mzee Jomo Kenyatta talked about at the beginning in 1963, of ignorance, diseases, and poverty, these issues have continued to ravage, and they have continued to torment as many Kenyans. And those who get into leadership, instead of sorting these issues out of poverty, diseases, and ignorance, as you can imagine or you can see, they have continued to widen the gap between the haves and have-nots. And that is one of the biggest reasons why people feel disgruntled. Some of them feel like they are more Kenyans than others. And as I come to a conclusion on this issue, fast submissions, I want to, say it's not a happy day. I know people are wishing us happy Father's Day. I would want to accept that, but until we get, because how do you now survive way going forward without a father? I mean, without a mother. I mean, without a son, without a daughter. How do you even get better? How do you even feel good? When that gap is left, and why you lose your child, you lose your father, you lose your mother, is because they're fighting for the right things. My grandfather was a Mau Mau fighter. I did not have an opportunity to see him. I didn't. I was denied that opportunity because the colonizers and the government therein thought it wise to eliminate him and the group that they were in the forest fighting. You know, luckily I was able to see my dad, who is no more today, but because of natural causes. However, why should it be the case that somebody has to be denied an opportunity to celebrate their dads moving to the future because somebody else thinks that they have more privileges to live and continue doing whatever they wanted to do, and if their egos are pricked, then they decide who lives and who not. It's not a happy Father's Day for me, because we cannot continue looking at things and in a normal way, the way we have always seen them. No. And therefore, as I have always said, it is a clarion call for all of us. We, as Dr. Milton mentioned, everybody has to do whatever it takes them to do, whether that means going to the streets. If you have that capability, please be there. If it means you being online and doing whatever it is needed to inject online, please be there and do it. If it means we talking in the diaspora, talking about how and Kenya is being run and the relationship that Kenya needs to make with other people out there, we need to be there and doing exactly that. Time to hide out, it is normal. And last, thank you so much, Hilary.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ali. I know you'll come back and I know you'll come back and say something. Yeah, I see so many requests, guys,
You
and
can
I'm
hear me, right?
requesting that. Yeah, can you update?
Okay.
We thank you so much. We see many requests, guys, and when we come to the point and also give the way forward is very key for us. Thank you so much for joining. KOT, go ahead then. KOT, go ahead then. Milton, then Jojo Uda, then Bonnie, then Paul, then Anthony. Beatrice, where are you? Ladies, come on mic. Come on mic. We want to hear your voices. He's only man speaking today. I know it's Father's Day. KOT, vipi kaka?
Asante sana Hilary. So, guys, it's so unfortunate that we are still crying about injustices and police brutality at this point. So, I think it's really enough of us crying and trying to find justice where we honestly know that we are not going to get justice. You've seen how these people are lying on a broad daylight. They're giving false information. But then the good thing is we are in a digital era where we can always get information even if you're not being given by the real source. And so personally, I really don't have much to say. What I want to do is to ask all Kenyans to ensure that we come out, of course, and demand justice for the Nani Albert Ojwang. Because if we remain silent, then it's going to be a normal thing whereby someone is picked, murdered, and then we talk about it and then move on. You saw what happened recently, whereby there is this young person, Zito Odhiambo, who was arrested by the Kenya Wildlife Service in Nakuru. He was murdered. People went to strike within Nakuru, and then everything just came back to normal. The other day, we have this guy coming from Kilifi. Is it the Jumian? The guy spoke about that issue. Yeah, nani Beatrice Elachi today, and then the next day is no more. So you find out that these people are trying to test waters by capturing the young people. They torture them. They began with abductions. We went to the streets, tried to condemn the abduction issue, and then at least abduction reduced. But now today, they're not abducting. They come arrest you, they take you to the police cell, they torture you. Then at long last, you are dead. Then we as Kenyans are just here, we're trying to normalize things. So if today Lagat is arrested, I mean, if he resigns, do you think that will be justice enough for Ojwang? It's not justice enough. The only thing we need to do for us to get justice is to ensure that we are having a total overhaul of the system. Because this fish that we are having is not rotten at the tail alone. It begins from the head. So what we need to do, let us come together. We ensure that we teach these people a lesson that any person who will ever try to occupy the presidency will never joke with Kenyans. He'll never sit somewhere try to mock the people of this great nation. So it's up to us to march forward to ensure that we get justice by saying enough is enough. Otherwise, on Tuesday, you should join us. We'll be on the streets. Personally, I'll be there. On Wednesday, I mean on Thursday, also we'll be on the streets. And if we don't get justice on Tuesday and Wednesday, and Thursday, then on 25th Wednesday, that is next week Wednesday, the other week, we'll still be out there. Actually, we don't have anything to lose. Personally, as a young person, I don't think I have anything to lose at the moment, because the suffering that these young people are going through is not worth. So guys, let's come together. Let's avoid the side shows. I've seen this guy called Gaito is trying to bring in a lot of confusions. Let us avoid all those side shows and the other stories. We march forward together. Otherwise, for hosting this
Thank you so
space.
much. Yeah.
Asante.
Asante sana KOT, na tunashukuru sana. Mungu awajalie nyinyi, sana sana wale watakuwa pale, na hatutatulia. We will do this all our lives, and we are here today to call for good governance and for good leadership and the future for our country. We are serious about this, and that's why we are here. And it's so painful to come here to talk just as still abductions and killings is necessary. Abdi Redemptor, you want to say something on behalf of ladies, and then Abdi, before we welcome other speakers?
Yeah, I'll just be
Just
quick.
in a short moment, because many people are requesting mics.
Yeah, yeah. I just want to cycle back to the previous speaker who was a journalist who talked about police reforms, I think. I somehow agree with him. The solution to police brutality requires a holistic approach. I think first we must reform the police training structure, which he said to prioritize human right, trauma-informed practice, and community-based policy, not a militarized force as it is going on. I think, but I also agree to some extent that training alone won't fix a rotten culture. We need structural accountability through strong independent oversight, which IPOA is not doing it. And to add to it, it should have a judicial power or a prosecutory powers that is free from state capture. That would be one way or the other. I think rogue officers and their superiors must be held criminally liable. No more cover ups. I think we also must confront the systemic injustice that enables brutality. This is racism, classism, corruption, political interference. I think healing can only begin when victims and their families receive justice, public acknowledgement, repatriation. Moreover, recruitment into the police must be depoliticized, and professionalism, focusing on integrity, not loyalty to the regime, I think. And finally, I think we must redefine public safety, not through fear and intimidation, but through trust, equity, and respect for the rule of law. Without truth and accountability and reforms, I think this brutality will only breed more resistance and unrest. Thank you, Hillary.
Thank you so much. Redemptor.
Yeah, I see Beatrice Cairo. Is that her name? I don't know if
Yeah,
she had dropped.
she's coming and dropping, and we really, I think
Yeah,
she's working on our network. Yeah.
yeah, and because the other Milton's hand is up, I'll let other people speak, and maybe we
Okay.
can change the topic a bit and talk about the money that is being poured in these streets of Kenya. Where is this money coming from? Even as we pay tribute to justice for Ojwang.
All right, and way forward. Right, Milton, go ahead. Then Jojo Uda, 2 minutes, please, because we have so many requests. Go ahead, Milton.
Thank you so much, Hillary. The other time I couldn't hear my NMC Milton speak. That's why I asked. I wasn't hearing him at all. So I've had many people speak, and my first point of concern is that I feel we Kenyans, we move on so fast when bad things have been like done to us. We move on so fast. Like just the other day, the Molo MP, literally, he killed that guy, the activist, who was questioning about the usage of CDF money in Molo constituency. Nothing happened. People are just quiet. That guy called Brian in Nakuru, people are moving on. One thing I want to tell people on this case that we are currently having, if we do not demand full justice to this, then some of us who've been calling for justice for Albert, they'll come for you guys one by one. Yes. Kama huyu jamaa ataenda nyumbani, then atatukujia moja moja. So we like hiyo speed yenye tumeweka, we need to add more and more and more and more force into it. Yeah, we don't need to be moving on so fast, because Kenyans, we move on so fast, we forget so fast. Like, we elect people who are rubbish, the next minute they are mocking us. We need not to move on so fast. We move on so fast and it's so sad. It is a very sad experience. So we need to keep the pressure on social media, pressure on the ground. Even if you are not feeling well and you can't go to town, if some 2-3 people can go to town and you can afford their fare, wape ata fare wafike. You know, there's power in numbers. And if we have the numbers, then at least our message will reach home. That is the first thing. The second thing, my colleague Kenya West talked about the training. You know, if you have a police who is your friend or your brother or whatever, the first thing they're done for when they go for training is like, wanafanyiwa unyama fulani ati ili itoe humanity kwako, ndio usikuwe na huruma kwa mtu. Most of them usually say that. So, but this thing most of the time, it all boils down to the person in power. If you have a good leader, bad things will not happen. So we also need to check on the leadership we sometimes put in place. If you have good leadership, even if you have a good prefect in a class, certain things will make sense. But if you have a rogue person as a prefect in a class, things will be bad. The other thing is, I wanted to talk about our criminal justice system. Our criminal justice system has a problem. Our courts, our investigative agencies, they have a problem. For example, the things that IPOA are trying, like there is an angle IPOA is trying to drive us to in this case. And it is hogwash. Ni upuzi wanafanya. If someone is intelligent, you are able to see like kuna angle fulani wanataka tuanze kufikiria na wao. I tend to feel that things like IPO, I don't know, it's because our system is it presidential or wherever, where the president appoints everyone. So if his friend makes a mistake, what will that person do? Yeah, what will that person do? Because I feel IPOA does literally nothing. And then, like, the other thing that usually surprises me in Kenya is that you arrest someone and then you've arrested someone who has committed a crime. Then you go to court, then you want to ask for 14 days to complete investigation. Why were you arresting someone who you didn't have any information against? For example, kama hii kesi Ojwang angekuwa saa hii, Ojwang angepelekwa kotini, unasikia those DCI boys wanaenda hapo na their lawyer, the prosecutor, whatever, that we are requesting for 14 days to complete investigations. Why are you arresting someone without any evidence or any incriminating document against that person? So that is another problem. We have a problem with also like how our system is designed. The other thing I wanted to talk about is data protection. And this is a call out. I've just felt that we need to talk to our, like the youths, the society, our mothers, fathers, and everyone. Sometimes we give our data also so much. Yeah, we give our data a lot. Umeenda tu event, umeandika kila kitu yako, event yenye hata ufai hata kuandika, like wewe ushaandika everything. After these events, hizi data huwa zinaenda wapi? Kuna watu wananunua hizi data. Where do they send them to? Yeah, all of a sudden unapata these bulk SMSing companies walipata data zetu wapi kuanza kututumia hizo messages? Nani aliwapea? We also have a weak data like the parastatal of or is it the entity of data commissioner? I feel they have failed. Our data is exposed, and our government is not also explaining to us what is actually happening with our data. For example, last time the government used billions to conduct Huduma number exercise. Up to now, no one knows where that data was taken to. President Ruto pia amekuja sahi anataka kufanya yake sijui inaitwa maisha namba. So you wonder, like, you people gave like you were given details of Kenyans, and in that during that Huduma number, like literally ulipeana kila kitu, kwenu, mama yako, watoto wako, kukuko nao, everything. Where do this data go to? Yeah, because for example, Huduma number, you've not seen anything concrete coming out of it. And you know, data right now is oil. Where does this data go to? So we also need to talk about such things, because I feel data zetu zinapeanwa kiumalaya umalaya hapa nje, yenye pia we are exposed to a lot. Thank you, and let's meet on Tuesday.
Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much,
much.
Milton. Yeah, and the language that we use is very important sometimes. But thank you so much for we get the point that what you're saying, that even our data is really, really being messed up. I would really appreciate that. Jojo, would I go ahead? I so many
Thank you,
requests we
Hilary.
have. Yeah. Okay, go ahead, bro.
Thank you, Hilary. Thank you, Redemptor. Thank you, Abdi. And thank you for everyone who is here. I'm happy that we are gathered to not just out of outrage, but to seek for justice, because we know justice is not a favor, it's a right. A few of you were here, and some of you, and many of you maybe, can recall something that used to be called the special branch. It was defeated. And I know very well that this demagogue that has come up now will be defeated. But it all lies on the resolve that we have as Kenyans. And I'm happy we're talking about the police. But me, I have a different message to the police, because we are talking about training and all that. Even after training, you still have to be a human being to discern wrong from right. So there is no excuse in that. So to the police, I have a message for them, especially the junior ranks who are used to shielding rod for the seniors. The era of holding brief for your bosses is over. The old script where you take the fall while they sip tea in safe offices no longer flies. Because the Gen Zs have eyes in every alley, phone cameras in every hand, and truth in every tweet. The generation does not forget. It documents, it archives, and it exposes. And then I have another one to the politicians. Don't be fooled. Your proximity to the president, your tribal arithmetic, your access to state dinners, none of it will ever protect you from the truth when it finds you. Your loyalty to impunity will not be your refuge. Gen Z has no sacred cows. You are either with the people or you are the problem. And obviously they are. And when the people rise, no title will save you. And then lastly, I have a message to the President of the Republic of Kenya. The blood of the innocent cries louder than your political slogans, Mr. President. You cannot preach unity while presiding over silence in the face of murder. You cannot win a generation with promises while protecting killers in uniform. Either you act now, dismantle the rotten system within the police force, reform it from the ground up, and reshuffle the leadership with urgency, or you will perish with it. Gen Zs will not separate the butcher from the king who gives him the knife. We will not forget. We will not forgive. If you continue shielding state violence with indifferences, you will carry its political corpse on your back, Mr. President. I yield.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That is so powerful, man. And it's straight to the point. Thank you so much, my brother George. And God bless you. Bonnie, go ahead.
Thank you so much, Hilary. Thank you, Redemptor. Thank you, Abdi. And everyone who is here, good evening. It is sad what is happening in Kenya. And first, I would want to thank all Kenyans who've come together in all spaces, in all mannerism to support and be there for the father of Ojwang. One, this is a call to Kenyans. Kenyans elect crooks and expect good leadership. Corruption was like the name tag of the person in power right now. We elected him expecting good leadership. That is madness. That is where we need to start. You will not elect crooks and expect good leadership from all fronts, from the MCA to the presidency. We elect people who we know are bad, people who've killed, people who've stolen money. We need to change that.
Can I speak or somebody still on this?
Wait, Bonnie. Hey. Bennett, Wilson, we don't work that way here. And
Okay.
wait, Bonnie. Please, I said it when we were starting the space. Give people respect if you want respect back. Mute your mic when somebody's speaking. We give everybody a mic. Thank you. Go ahead. Finish, Bonnie. 1 minute.
So we agree that the system is broken. I believe that there's no reform that will work with a crook heading the government. What we need is a cleanup. I was thinking of an example of the Michuki rules. Why did it work? Because there was interest in making it work. There is no interest in making the police force work. No transformation, no reform, no paperwork, no rules will be put in place if the person on top there doesn't want them to work. We need to change that by putting people in place who can make things work. Like fellow speakers have said, Kenya needs an overhaul from all fronts. From the side that wants power because they are not there. They don't have the opportunity to do what the others are doing to us. There's that lot that wants power, and there's this lot that is in power. They are one and the same thing. Let's bring in fresh blood, people who are sane to drive Kenya where it should be. Thank you, guys.
Asante sana, asante sana. Hillary, I will just cycle back to one of the speakers. I think it's Milton. I just want to add on the data bridge. I think isn't a tech issue.
There's so many people have not talked
Yeah,
update. So
yeah.
let
No,
us
I
finish
just
the
want
people
to
with the
talk
mic.
about
Then
about
we'll finish them.
Maricom and the surveillance and disappearance violating the privacy. I think this is also a consumer protection that needs to be looked at. That was my addition to that. Thank you, and you can give out the mic.
Yeah. Guys, thank you so much, Bonnie. Thank you so much, George, for that. Ogutu Akach, go ahead. Ogutu,
Thank you.
make
Thank you
sure.
so much.
Yeah.
Yes,
Your
you
background
can
is
hear me now.
so nice. Your background is so noisy. If you can be in a quiet place, is better. Okay, go ahead.
All right. Thank you so much. I totally appreciate this opportunity and thank you for continuing with this conversation. My name is Boniface from Kisumu. Um, I want to again stand in solidarity with the family of Albert and all survivors and victims of police brutality. Two, I have always been coming to a lot of online spaces to try and push in this conversation that I also want to share here. One, I still feel that this is a very important revolutionary moment, and it is a very important time to take care of state capture. You know, I have been a proponent of reforms, but then for as long as the institutions, for as long as we still have state capture, then any step we make forward will always be taken is a clear example that as much as we'd want to reform the police, for as long as the leadership of the police conspire to defeat justice, then it will be a very hard task to make development. Now, this being a revolutionary moment, it would be important for us to also have clarity on what justice for Albert means to everybody. How do we do this? We need to be clear on what are our demands. If we are not clear on what are our demands, then we risk individualizing this struggle, where the moment some of the issues that are being raised, especially around the case of Albert, will be dealt with, then we will still be vulnerable. The case of Albert has been handled. Almost all of us can relate to such incidences within our communities and even our local police stations, where the leadership normally conspire with the junior officers to brutalize wananchi. So what would be some of these demands? I tried to write them down somewhere and I want to read them. One would be the immediate arrest and prosecution of the DIG and all the officers who were implicated in the murder of Albert Ojwang. I think that is a very clear and precise demand. The second one would be the immediate resignation of the IG, the Cabinet Secretary for Internal Security and his principal secretary, the Director of Criminal Investigation, and I want us to really put in bold the name of the principal secretary because he's been a consistent figure in all these brutalities since the Gen Z protests. The others might have been switched or changed at some point, but he's been there and he's almost being invisible. But then also judging from history, we know how important and how a key role the principal secretary normally plays. We want them to resign because they have all misled the nation and they've tried to cover up this state-sanctioned violence. Three, it would be important for the formation of an independent public commission of inquiry into all cases of extrajudicial executions and enforced disappearances of young Kenyans so abducted in Marakwet and their bodies found in Soin. Brian Odhiambo is still missing. Brian would be the full implementation of the Corona Service Act of 2017. This would help us in ensuring transparency, accountability in all cases of unnatural death. Now, this is a law that was passed by Parliament and assented by the then President Uhuru Kenyatta, and it was advised by a lot of the killings that were happening during post-election violence, and police would in turn cover up or, deter justice, especially for the victims. This helps us create something like a crime scene management outfit that is fully independent from the police, so that whenever there's any unnatural death, we don't require the police to be there to investigate. They wait for these people to come. Of course, I know a lot of the commissions and institutions that have been established have also been captured, but then it doesn't stop our forward march towards justice. Another one would be the mandatory use of body cams.
As you finalize, I hope so. Okay. Thank you.
For police officers. Okay, so then let me just speak them in point. And of course, installation of CCTVs within this institution. Now we want the immediate disbandment of IPOA because it is not serving us. And then let us also not lose our attention on the finance bill. We totally reject it. We should demand for the resignation of President Ruto because he is the commander-in-chief and all these things have been happening under his watch. We want the dissolution of parliament because it is not serving us as well in terms of oversighting and even holding these people to task apart from general PR. And probably our last demand would be a formation of a caretaker government to oversee peaceful, verifiable, and credible elections. Lastly, if you allow me, sorry for taking your time, I'm still being targeted in Kisumu for participating in the Gen Z protests last year. My case is still up and I'm seeking for solidarity. I'm going back to court again on Wednesday this week for the fourth hearing. The police have really set me up. If you look at some of the testimonies that they are giving, they just really want to make sure that I am jailed as much as they are all lies. But I was also arrested, and just like Albert, I was removed from the cell, tortured, and then when the pressure was too much, that is when they presented me to court. So any solidarity that I can get on Wednesday would be much appreciated. Thank you so much for the time.
Wow. Abdi, you said say something. We need to call that before Prof come in. You want to say something,
Yeah,
Abdi?
no, go ahead, go ahead. I just wanted to welcome Prof. and then
Yeah, Bonfonoguzu, let us know the details and we are with you and let us know the court number, the court place and everything. We'll even send some lawyers there to make sure to stand with you. And at this moment, all generation, let us stand with Ogutu, and you have heard the plead. And we that's why we're here. That's why we're here to do that. So please let us stand with him and we will follow up that closely. On Wednesday, he's going to the court. We'll be there. All of
Thank,
us, Kenyans will
thank,
be that court and will be Sumu that time. Let us know the court, let us know the place, and don't worry, we will
thank
be
you.
there, man. And we'll have videos. Take video all the time. Take the pictures and let us know your safety all the time, all the time. Even the police officers who are arresting you, all take their number. Let us know where they are. Otherwise, we
Thank
stand
you
with
so
you. And
much.
thank you so much, bro. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm sharing details on your inbox. Thank you.
do that. Do that. We'll do that. We'll spread it all over, and young people will be there with you. And we really stand with you and all this team is with you, my brother. Yes, Prof, you are here sometimes and you drop off, and we want to give you this opportunity to say hi to Kenyans and also, what is your take on what is happening in our country?
Hi everyone. Thank you. You know, it's a Sunday. There are many things to do, but I'm happy you're having this forum, and thank you for inviting me. I hope you can hear me.
Very well, Prof. Very well.
Thank you. So what's happening for me says a lot of things, and I am someone who's been working on criminal justice reform for a very long time. I remember writing an article on the democratizing policing in Kenya. I called it Public Law Values and the Politics of Criminal Injustice. The IN was in brackets, and this was even before they set up IPOA, and I was reflecting on the nature of our policing, the regime nature of it, that policing is more geared towards uh, protecting the interests of political regimes as opposed to the motto of the police, which is utumishi kwa wote. They've never lived up to it. So for me, reflecting on it, nothing has changed since then. Nothing much has changed. I mean, there've been all kinds of attempts to change the police, but nothing has changed. And what is worrisome about what happened in Albert Ojwang's case is that this is the modus operandi of the police. This is how they operate. It's just that this time they're getting caught because it's unraveling in many ways. I don't think they anticipated that the professionals at Bagathi Hospital would tell the truth, for example. So it is an unraveling, and I hope that it continues to unravel. It would be very good if we got CCTV footage from the University of Nairobi, which is next door to Central Police, and that would tell us what really happened to Albert Ojwang. But just to say that we must keep insisting, because this is unacceptable. If we accept this, then who's going to be next? And they do this. This is what they do. I mean, look at how Mohammed Amin lied to us. Look at how the IG lied with straight faces. And yet the timelines do not add up at all. And if you followed what I've been saying on X, the first thing that I asked myself is, so what did Albert Ojwang do? What is this that he did that was criminal? What was his offense? What was the evidence against him? So far, and I was hoping that before the committee of the National Assembly, before the Senate, that they would tell us, first of all, the first thing has to be that, look, this is the offense that we are accusing these individual of committing. These are the ingredients of the offense. This is the evidence of the commission of the offense. It's not there. And then, even if there was an offense, somebody has a right to be informed that this is what you have done. And by the way, you have the right to remain silent. You have the right to remain silent. So why would they abduct this individual, brutalize him, and kill him when the Constitution protects his right to silence? So all of these are things that we are not getting answers to. So, but hopefully in the next few days we can get answers to this question, but we must keep the pressure on these people. Mohammed Amin, Eliud Lagat, for me, are the principal players in all of this saga, and we must keep insisting that they step aside, that they are arrested, and that they are charged with the death of Albert Ojwang. That is number one. But number two, the thing that we must insist is that we get rid of this statute that is called the Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Act, because that is part of the problem. I think that is it is this has been happening for a very long time throughout the republic, which is the misuse of the criminal justice system to oppress the citizenry, to sort of squelch speech, shrink the democratic space, prevent us from, stop us from holding government to accountable. So I know there's a court of the case against this statute is in the Court of Appeal, but so we must insist that we get rid of these statute. I think that is what I would say for now.
Thank you so much, Prof, for that, and also for I saw the tweets, and we thank you so much for always supporting what is happening to Kenyans. Yep.
We must.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
then there's a question for you, Prof, on the chat, maybe a quick one.
Yeah.
And they ask than isolated incident. Would you say this pattern reveals a systemic collapse of lawful accountability mechanism, or is it a deliberate policy choice discussed as law enforcement? This was coming from one of your listeners. Thank you, Prof.
I think it is a deliberate policy choice, but you see, it is enabled by the design of the criminal laws. If you listen to me when I spoke about all of this in my inaugural lecture, the problem is regime policing, and it's used to bolster the state rather than protect citizens. Police, you know, the motto of the police is utumishi kwa wote. But how they operate in practice is utumishi kwa serikali. That is the regime policing, and that is what has to stop. And then I also castigate lawyers, because you see, we are the people that draft these laws. Whether it is us as the drafts people, whether it is us as the people that are in parliament as legislators, these things went through some drafts person. These things went through some legislators who have some knowledge of law. And the first thing that you ask yourself as a lawyer in a democratic society, why would we have these laws? Why would I, if I'm the draft person, I'm asking myself, how is this law going to be used? Is this going to be used to oppress citizens? And as you can see, I think there are very good articles on this in the Nation, the Sunday Nation today. This law is being used to oppress citizens. It is being used to stultify our democracy. But we are the people that made this law. We are the people that drafted this law. So the first people that have to be on the chopping board are lawyers. We must ask ourselves, why do we do this? We are lawyers. It cannot be that we just do this because we want to earn a living, that we want to earn some money. It must be that we this law did not exist, Albert Ojwang would be here with us today. If this law did not exist, no one would be there'd be no reason for the police to harass us. Already you can see that the courts have outlawed Justice Mativo was my dissertation student on this. So I think we have to castigate ourselves as lawyers, number one, because if you give the government of the day the instruments and then tweeting, I've been saying that we must disband the police force. We've pretended to reform the policing over the last 30 back to the drawing board. And as citizens, we must insist. We must. So these demonstrations that we are having, one, we must get justice for Albert Ojwang. But number two, we must insist, because if we do not reform this system, there'll be another Albert Ojwang being a victim. We must insist that we disband these systems and overhaul them. IPOA, DCI, the Kenya Police, we must insist that there has to be reform. That has to happen as a matter of urgency. Back to you.
Thank you. I'll read the final question from our readers, Prof. The Computer Misuse Act crime is now, you said it's before the Court of Appeal, yet it is still weaponized to silence dissent and shield power. The question is, beyond litigation, can the law society, civil society, the media, and the citizens do to demand it is repealed and defend the civic space? Is it continued silence from legal institutions is part of the problem? Thank you.
You know, the challenge is that we tend to say that, you know, once a matter in court, then there's nothing else we can do. So I think one is putting pressure that I think this was a 2020 case. Yeah, why has it not been determined by the Court of Appeal? Because today somebody can bring a case and say that, look, this act is also being misused in a way that undermines constitutional rights since then. But you know, when you do that, they'll tell you, but you know, this is a matter that is already before the courts. So I think part of it is putting pressure on the judiciary to make sure that this court is heard and determined. Once that the court that case with its facts and particular circumstances is determined, then we can make a decision and say, okay, what else do we need to do to ensure that we have the space to exercise our thoughts and opinions in the digital space in accordance with the Constitution of Kenya 2010. So those are the things that I think need to happen. But certainly what we can do as citizens and on X is to make noise about this, that the matter is heard, the appeal is heard and determined as soon as possible. Because people are dying. Ojwang would be with us today if that Court of Appeal decision had been determined. That is what I would say.
Thank you so much, Prof, for that. So, yeah, I see so many hands coming up, but I want to give those who have not talked at least to say, Dr. Milton, actually, 1 minute, please. Mm.
I think I wanted to agree with Prof in terms of the in terms of how We need to hold the people accountable. The police system, I couldn't agree more. We need to overhaul, a complete overhaul of the system of the police, because one, even how the recruitment happens, the training curriculum, we need to reprogram. It needs to go. The issue, I also agree with him. The people now need to take it upon themselves to demand that even how the judicial calendar is managed, for example, it can't be that it works against the people. We need to set expectations. You see, just like it was made possible that election related matters will be heard and determined within a period of 6 months, that should be the same standard, really. That unless you're dealing with complex criminal matters, there is no reason why 10 years, 2 years down the line, you still have a matter pending before the courts. We need to ask ourselves, what are these courts doing administratively and in terms of managing judicial time? Because now this is the monkey business that demonstrates collusion between the executive and gatekeepers of the state to frustrate the citizens. Thank you. And
Thank
perhaps
you.
Prof, you
Yeah.
could weigh in on that last part of my point on management of judicial time, and to ensure that we keep away the gatekeepers from holding brief for the state.
Thank you, Dr. Ali. Beatrice, go ahead. I'm gonna give you time.
Can,
Would you give
can,
Beatrice? I'm gonna give you time. Don't I see you?
can
Yeah,
you hear me now well?
Beatrice.
Is it clear?
Exactly. You're now good.
Great.
Don't move.
All right, Sasa. So I want to say, guys have given a very good points, and we keep independence because that's what Kenyans should be fighting for: independence of these institutions. Because with the independent institutions, it doesn't matter who comes into power. There will be checks and balances. Number two, we cannot have government oversighting government. So we need to have a structure by government. Now, the other thing I wanted to bring close home is there was this issue of Wakili Kimani. I think it happened during Uhuru's regime. And one thing we saw is that the lawyers united and they brought down, they came to a halt to the point even the president had to ensure associated. One way or another, you're either a banker, one way or another, you're a teacher, you're a Juakali artisan, you're a scrap metal association, you're in the Matatu Industry Association. By right now, I would be expecting the unions or the teachers' union should all have called for a strike. The association should have called for a strike, a total shutdown of schools until the perpetrators of Albert Ojwang are brought to book. That would cause a cessation. Even before people go to the streets, the association where Mwalimu Albert Ojwang was associated, they should have been the first people on the front line and shut down. Then we look at associations that are affiliated. We are grateful for the pathologists who did their job. They decided to be professional and they have assisted. We could have even nurses association going on strike, doctors going on strike until the perpetrators are brought to book. Each person can contribute in their own small ways. But right now, we are so infiltrated in all angles and wondering what is going on. I remember the teachers' union almost brought Moi's government to a standstill where teachers went on strike for almost 3 months. There was no school going on. So we need to rally up and say if each individual, each and every one of us, one or in a part of an association, we need to call those leaders out and tell them what are you doing to push for reforms in this country. And that's all I wanted to say. And maybe Prof to answer us, how do we ensure the independence of this institution? Because even IEBC should be an independent institution, but we have seen it being used to weaponize against the decision of the people. And every time they have to be a court case being taken before court, talking about elections being stolen. Now we have IPOA. When you look at the person who has been appointed, they're appointed by the president. So how do we ensure independence of these institutions? Because this is where the ball lies. This is where everything goes down. Because when you have strong independent institutions, it doesn't matter who becomes president. They will one way or another be forced to abide to the law. Asanteni sana.
Yeah, I give him one more question from the readers too to the prof before he responds. They are asking prof, from a legal standpoint, why does the police brutality persist in Kenya despite constitutional safeguard, judicial precedents, and oversight bodies like IPOA? What are the systemic factors that continue to fuel this culture of impunity? Thank you.
You want me to respond?
Yes, yes, Prof. Then don't. Yeah, go ahead. If you can respond to that, I see you. Yeah, go ahead, Prof.
Thank you. If you want the longer version of all of these, please listen to my inaugural lecture. It is on YouTube. The short of it is, we have to understand the nature of the exercise of power in a state and the sources of power. So ordinarily, the source of power should be the constitution, and then everything should flow from it. But there's a colonial legacy in this country that we need to grapple with. And if you are a student of history in this country, you'll know, for example, that the Kenya colony was governed for almost 50 years without a constitution. The first time that this country had the colony had a constitution is 1952. That is more than 50 years. I think 1897 plus 52 is that is 55 years after Kenya became a colony of the British. And what then happened in those 55 years was a regime of law and order, that people are not treated as citizens that could participate in governance. They were treated as subjects. And so if you look at it from that perspective, the state was governed by a regime of statute law. So if you look at our criminal laws, for example, that is their origin. They predate any democratic constitutional order. So when you then bring in a constitutional order, you've already had a way that power works. And in ordinary terms, we talk of amri. They say these are the orders must be obeyed. We don't ask, are these orders emanating from any constitutional source? No. Are they emanating from a statutory order? Yes. So then you look at the penal code, you look at the criminal procedure code, etc. You look at the laws that are there, and the very, very wide powers that they give the police emanate from there. So then when you bring in the constitution, you already have a culture of doing things that know the constitution. So because as far as they're concerned, that culture, those sources of law, however unconstitutional, is what prevails. That has not changed. The only way to change it is by... and that is why for me, and I've been saying this since around 2005, because I've been researching on policing for a long time. The only way to change it is, for example, to get rid of the very wide, and they give the police very, very broad powers. Unless we change those statutes, we change, I think the ICJ Kenya has been spearheading a reform of the penal code. Unless we reform the penal code, we reform the criminal procedure code, we get rid of these cyber crimes and Computer Misuse Act, all of this, they have the same kind of history because they confer powers that overweening and that make it very easy for the police to disobey the law. And you know what they say? Because this law still exists in our statutes, what they're going to do is that they're going to use them, and then they're going to wait for you to go and challenge them in court, saying that they're unconstitutional. By the time you go to court to challenge these things and say they're unconstitutional, and Albert Ojwang is dead. That is a problem. So we must get rid of these statutes. As citizens of this country, there must be reform of the criminal justice system, because this is what gives the police, has given the police their power from the colonial days and in ways that are very difficult to constitutionalize. The only way that we do this is by criminal justice reform. The Constitutional Implementation Commission was supposed to do this job. They did not do that job. Ask yourself, why is it that they did not do this job? Because whoever was in charge of them was interested in continuity, not change. And then we set up all kinds of institutions, and I'm getting to the second point about the independence of these institutions. It matters. Let us pay attention. Because every time these people advertise and say, you know, we are appointing these, they give you a veneer of transparency. They tell us that the hiring has been competitive, etc. It never is. Because you should always ask yourself, what went into to making the decision to appoint one person and not another? What scores did each one of the candidates get? So we must demand accountability. And if we don't get that accountability, we must go to court, because all of this matters, whether it is IPOA, whether it is any other institution of countervailing democracy, name it. The Kenya Human Rights, the Kenya National Human Rights Commission, the what is it called? The bodies that oversight there is real transparency in how these people are hired, and accountability. So that if we feel that somebody does not fit the job, we must go to court and they must explain to us, look, how was this person? How did you make the decision that this person is the best? It matters. Look at it now, because if IPOA now is independent, we will never get to the root of who murdered Albert Ojwang. And again, a lot of it has to do with integrity and professionalism. And I blame lawyers, because we're the people that draft statutes. When you're drafting statutes, you should ask yourself, in the context of power, how is this going to be used? In the context of how we are policed, how is these cyber crimes and Computer Misuse Act going to be used? Am I going to be the professional that will contribute to freedom in my society? Or am I going to be the professional that contributes to stifling the democratic space? These are questions that we must ask, and there there are lawyers among ourselves. And let us ask these questions. Who drafted this statute? Did he or she not ask themselves these questions? Before we start blaming all the judiciary for the delay in the Court of Appeal for the delay in determining this appeal, There's a lawyer that drafted, there are lawyers that drafted these statutes. Why are they not asking themselves, am I making my society better or am I making it worse? These are questions that we must ask ourselves as professionals. And as a teacher, I keep telling my students, please do good. Think about the society that you're leaving behind or that you're creating. So I think in a nutshell, the reason that police brutality persists in our country is that culture of impunity is because of regime policing. We've tried to democratize it, but you cannot democratize it unless you change the way that power works, unless you discipline the exercise of power in the policing system, and that is primarily found in the criminal justice system statutes, the penal code, the CPC, the Criminal Procedure Code, and these other new acts that we are creating, such as the Cyber Crimes and Computer Misuse Act. So that is where the power of the police act, because it is that enables them to do regime policing, because they see themselves as protectors in this instance of the Ruto regime, not protectors of the citizens of Kenya. I hope that answers the questions.
Yes, Prof. Very well. Yeah. Thank you so much. Don, go ahead. But Don, you need to know how this thing is being run. That request a mic, hurry up your hand. Don't just speak. When you do that next time, then it won't went well, bro. Go ahead.
Hilary, forgive my manners. It is men's mental men. Thank you for correcting me. I am sure it has gone well with me, and next time I'll do it. Spau, excuse me. Now, in a country that is third world, you get powers by having the right information. So I'm going to put you through a series of questions. The officers who went to Homa Bay had their phones. The phones were near a mast. No one has questioned that. Number two, the officers went to Narok town and bought bread, whatever they said. There must have been a CCTV in a building around there. No one has questioned the shop name to get to know the state of that young man. Because what lacks in a criminal system is documenting how things run. They got to Nairobi. The car captured in Narok would have seen where it went. So there are rumors it went to Karura, there are rumors it went to DCI. Lastly, there are rumors it went to Nairobi City County. So the hard questions that should be asked is, if we do not have the right paper trail, the justice in Kenya is very nice. They will have the wrong people presented in court. Then those people presented in court will easily be let go because there will be no sufficient evidence to prosecute them. All this while, the criminals will be working very hard to convince you through bloggers that so and so is the right person to have been taken to court. So you fail to ask the hard questions. There are some questions that have not yet been answered by the police force. Number one, the government spokesman has a superior boss before they issue it out. The Mushiri doesn't just wake up and say, Leonita issue his statement. The statement is confirmed, then he signs. So who confirmed the initial statement? After the initial statement was confirmed, who then wrote a speech for the IG on the wall? Now, this is a funny part. Documentary evidence, and that's why I say we have very strong laws. We just get said one thing. The young man hit himself on the wall. So my question is, who wrote that statement and who gave him those facts? Until we have those answers, going to a court of law with the wrong suspect. Now we put a young man yesterday for 21 days. We might tomorrow we might take Salam in for another 21 days. But who exactly are we looking at? Now, if you ask a policeman, they will tell you before there are two things that happen. They get funded and they get a letter authorizing them to operate outside their jurisdiction. Now, that letter was signed by someone. When they get to Homa Bay, they just don't come to your home. They go to the nearest police station and announce, we are here to do an arrest. Because assuming there's a firefight, meaning ule akona risasi na nyinyi mko na risasi, si lazima kutaulizwa nani aliruhusu wakuja na gun huku. So now, which police station authorized the four officers to arrest? Now, when that was done, in most cases, when the letter is done, hiyo barua tujaonyeshwa hadi sahi. We will know who sent the DCIs. We will know whether the young man was even dead before he got to Central Police Station for a few reasons. Answers. So there are three things that happen in law. Whoever ordered the murder is as guilty as whoever did the murder, as guilty as whoever concealed the murder, as guilty as whoever is helping conceal the murder. Now, because I know there are a lot of guys who want that they will use later on to defend themselves. That's why everyone who has ever been to a commission inquiry in Kenya has never been prosecuted, because you already feed them with the data and records they would require to protect themselves and to defend themselves in a court of law. So commissions of inquiries in Kenya are basically an easier way of government telling you or judiciary telling you. Someone spoke about it. There are four things that should happen to clear police reform. Number one is the hiring model. I still stand with this notion. One, do not hire fresh graduates to our police force. They have nothing to lose. They understand nothing about our country. Number two, do not centralize hiring of police in Kenya. Localize it to the local village level. To an extent where from Nyandarua and you're sent to Homa Bay, you have no sentimental value of being there. So whoever is there, you see them as money. The other thing we need to ensure is that these policemen need to be removed from the let them rent like any other civil servant in our country. Lastly, I want you to ask yourself this: who stands to benefit from the perennial miscarriage of justice? Now, that document is part of the work we do at Records Management East Africa. We supply lawyers with such information to help them ask the right questions when the wrong people are brought to court. Now, the other thing we need to pray as a hang up, politicians need to stop using this for political mileage. Hiring should be done the right way. Ambition. Do not hire a woman illegally, and we are not going to support it. Bye, and God bless you.
Thank you so much, the Don, and we really appreciate your points. And you said something. I want to remind members here and the people of Kenya. So, if you want to support, just do that. Go there. Eric Omondi, the comedian, is known, and we don't want to do contribution in every platform, But if you want court because of several things, he was abducted. He was being people demand on the same. That's why he's out now. And Wednesday, people People of Kisumu will stand with him, and I know young people will be there. He has been here for a while, and Ras also is here, and even Buka.
Space now we can pick.
Yeah, a very quick one. Don, you can mute. Is dropping. I want to ask the professor, and thank you very much for the work you've done. So many years. Talk about 205, and even as we are doing Mchanga, can we Mchanga for forensics? Can we hire a private investigator for a case that involves the state? We've seen it done in America. I know people understand international laws and everything. Is it possible? That's my question. Hilary, over back to you and Abdi.
Yeah, I know Don will come, and I think he can do that. And what is dropped? Dr. Idris, go ahead. Then Anthony, then
Hillary,
Ras.
I think I was before Idris. Sorry for me intruding.
Okay.
Anthony, Dr. Idris has been here for a while. Just give him a minute, then you'll come in. All right, Doctor Idris, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Hillary. Thank you, Abdi, for giving me this platform to raise my concern, which are pressing issues relating to the death of Albert Ojwang. And let me be categorical, directing this message to the DCI and the people who are involved in the investigation that justice is not a game, and justice being not a game, and Albert Ojwang was not a fool. Once again, the DCI has reduced itself from the National Investigative Agency to a full-time propaganda unit for a regime soaked in impunity. Why am I saying so? This is because the recent statement issued by the DCI regarding the death of Albert Ojwang is not only misleading, but it is a mockery of the truth, an insult to the intelligent, and a direct assault on justice. How dare do these people invoke the criminal litigation custody become a matter under active investigation? Every time someone is brutally murdered, have lost its credibility at all. The public no longer see the seekers of the truth, but as the spinners of fiction. They are using the laws as the shield to protect the killers and silencing the outrage. The so-called investigations are nothing more than geograph damage and a control of embarrassing attempt to sanitize the murder, and they claim they claim following the due process, yet conveniently ignore the basic truth. Albert walked into the police custody alive and came out dead. No amount of rehearsal, no amount of rehearsed press release or courtroom jargon can erase the facts, because they cannot solve the crime they are committing and tending to bring a cover-up. So the blue badge, this is specifically for the police who are messing up with the truth, and the truth is known, that they are using their own tactic, trying to cover up the issue. And the so-called the blue badge, the uniform wolf parading as the protectors, have turned into a disgraceful, bloodthirsty arm unleashed on the innocent citizens. They are no longer the inventor of peace, but they are the enforcers. Being a button of the mother screaming for her angry child. They beat children in slums and drag students on tarmac road. We need to raise constitutional changes in order to bring about police reform in our country. This is not just a matter of the matter being an urgency, but it must be litigated in a court of law. And to this regime, which is thirsty of blood, as I finalize, I want to ask this blood regime and a sleeping nation that we refuse to die in silence. How much blood must soak our street before we say enough? Albert Ojwang is dead, killing not by thugs, killed not by thugs, not by criminals, but the very hand that swore to protect him. By the very hand that
So much, Daktari. We really appreciate your sentiment. And thank you guys for joining. This is Pressure Point. We're here to discuss about the state of the nation, what is happening, and we are blessed with so many people, so many ideas. Kenyans, we are really, really doing well. Anthony, go ahead. Then Buka, comrade, I see you. Yeah,
Uh,
Ras, go ahead.
then thank you, Hillary. Thank you, Abdi and Redemptor. I'll go straight to the point. One of the things we've come to realize with the Albert's case is like the previous speaker, Don 27. I love the chronology he gave. By the time the DG, the inspector of police, is reading a report, it is verified by very many people, because to get to that level, you've really come from the ranks below all the way up. So sometimes when I am looking at these mistakes, and even I hope Don was still on the space, he can tell you it is not possible for the police force and the DCI and government to be making these mistakes. It looks more choreographed than a mistake. It looks to be a very intentional mistake, because when you give the report to the DIG, that's the head of the police service, it's the same way like when you hand over a report to the speaker of the Senate or to the and who is this person who is hell bent on reaping from this chaos. And I go back and I remember there's an MP who once said, I think it's the MP of Mogotio, I'm not very sure, but he said, William Ruto thrives in chaos. And that statement hit me today in the morning. That every time we've done a maandamano, every time, the first time we did it, Ruto rearranged the government to suit the government he wanted. Remember, the government that Ruto formed first was a shared government. We had various people who had helped him come into power, all bringing in their people so that they can share the positions. And that came out when the MOUs were exposed, 30%, 50%, whatever percentages. So every time we've gone to the streets, to me, where I sit, Ruto gains. And I'm going to say why I think we need not only to go to the streets, but maybe we need to go a step further. And I'll give you an example of a lady called Maria Serugi from Tanzania. Now, when we went to the streets, we ended up with Ruto pushing his close aide to head the security docket in this country. That is Murkomen. Up giving Ruto all the key government parastatus, they all shifted. Now they all aligned to him. After that, the other key positions were aligned to Raila Amolo Odinga. So where are we gaining as young people? Where are we gaining as the people who are going in the streets? Where are we gaining? Because it's us who are dying, it's them who are gaining. I feel with the death of Albert, Ruto is going to push for police reforms and is going to change the leadership at the top. I can see it coming. The leadership at the top is going to change. But he's not going to he's not going to move talk here. I'm very happy with what the Dawn 26 that don't have in communication, and he has taken us through how communication happens. So when we come in these spaces, we are a pool of brilliant minds. So when you sit together here, as Professor is saying that we need to do I've heard him be very passionate about reforms, institutional reforms, and how laws are made in this country. But let me tell you the sad state of affairs. Today, the only case in court that I know of, there could be others, that is petitioning the removal of the DIG and the Inspector General has been put forward by Ndegwa Njiro. He's aligned to a political party that belongs to Kalonzo Musyoka. So today, as we fight, the only people who go to amend laws are politicians. They have amended will now suit them in power. Where am I driving to? So when we sit here, I'm very happy that there's something we did with Maria Seruge. And I told her I'm very happy with how you do your things. So this is all Tanzania does. Once they go to the streets, and we might say they are not effective, but Maria always comes out with that. Does she do going forward? William Ruto might not listen to us, but I can assure you, William Ruto will listen to the development partners. Why? Because it is development partners who fund his government. Without them, close to 60% of his budget cannot together and say, we as pressure point, we held a space that is informed as a civic educational space. This is civic awareness. This is the document we have produced. It should have a letterhead. Members who sign into that document, if there are any organizations that are listening on this space, we can request you, what are you saying? What do you want? We say you should have had us when you're in the streets. I'm not saying the streets is a bad thing, but documentation is a very important thing. When Boniface Mwangi was arrested in Tanzania, that document to the AU. That same document was forwarded to all international media outlets. I saw the other day Wall Street Journal actually received the document, and they actually called Samia Suluhu out. I am requesting Kenyans, and I remember even Rasdi asked me a question, and I answered him on his DM. And I think what I said happened. Space. We have brilliant minds here. We have a young man who has a court case. You'll be surprised that if today this young man was to be presented in Nairobi, 9 out of 10 times, Jagwanziro will represent him. Jagwanziro has political affiliations. So by the time why can't we have a lawyer who says, I'm not interested in being an MP, I'm not interested in being an MCA, I'm here to represent Akach as a lawyer, so that you go ahead and do what you want. If we come to the table with clean hearts, me, if I come and say I'm interested in this, so how do we, my question will be, how do we harness the brilliant mind? That these are our demands and this is what we are talking about. Because we need to fight Ruto from all ends. And if we don't do that, today Ruto is going to reform the police force, which I'm sure he will in the next 2 weeks or 1 week. He's going to reform the police force, and he is going to make a police force that does not suit you. He's going to make a police force that suits his 2027 agenda. Not just say reforms. So we reform. We reform to what? I feel that's where and start winning.
Thank you so much, Anthony, for reminding us that. I think the pressure point has been pushing at that, and we have a lot of documents that is going on. So, thank you for reminding us that. Actually, if you are keenly in our platform, we usually say that what are the action plans and what is the forward. So, thank you so much for reminding us that. And you are saying that we can broad based, we can. We bring
as a politician. First, I want to recognize everybody. Happy Father's Day. I'm a young father like Albert, and I want to join everybody in condoning what happened, and also wishing the family, especially at this great sad time, a moment that they can reflect, and may God give them the power to really go through this. First, I want to join other Kenyans in calling for the resignation of the Cabinet Secretary Interior, CS Kipchumba Murkomen. We're also calling out the resignation of Eliud Langat. We're also calling out the resignation of DCI boss Mohammed Amin. And we're also calling out the resignation of the National Police Service spokesperson who made the first reaction and the first report. And I don't want to go into details because my previous speakers have talked about that. Now, I know we have quoted the Constitution to William Ruto several times. One thing we need to ask our question, is William Ruto a respecter of rule of law? The obvious question is no. The impunity that is currently being witnessed, especially in Nairobi, because it was there when we went to the streets, and I'm glad, I don't know, Anthony has disappeared. Anthony has been one of the people who, when I insist on the street justice, he will always discourage me, but it's okay. William Ruto does not respect our constitution. In fact, as we speak today and the law experts are here, he is operating outside the constitution. How he has managed the police service. We remember all these policemen were brought in during the Azimio protest. I think Buka is here. These policemen you are seeing wamewekwa huko wa kabila moja, it is not by any accident. It is not by accident. And these are the fruits now the nation is reaping. Because tulinyamaza, akafanya vile anataka kufanya. You cannot have more than 15 police stations that they are being commanded and headed by your tribe. No, something is going on. And this is what Albert was supposed to expose. This is what he was supposed to tell the country. But unfortunately, they never allowed him to do so. But despite that, many Alberts have been born and will continue fighting for this country. We saw young men today who went to see Albert Father, and I salute them, who went to see Albert Father, courtesy of, I think, Father's Day. That is commendable, and this is our country. Yesterday I was on Redemptor Space and I talked largely on how the political class has invested on violence. And this violence, if you are not careful, will be met on us during the election. You have heard the president pronounce himself today. He is not planning and he is not in a business of giving or handing over power. That is the president. That is William Ruto for you. As a small boy, back in Eldoret, a place called Burnt Forest, I experienced firsthand brutality of the people that today are beneficiary of impunity in this country. So when I tell you they cannot respect, they are not respecters of law. William Ruto and company and friends, they have not started killing the other day. We know very well when we got it wrong as a country, when people were inducted by the ICC in this country, and we later on allowed them to run our public offices. That is where the rain started beating us. So we can quote numerous law, we can quote numerous article in our constitution, but we have to realize we are dealing with a monster that is already in the judiciary. He's already controlling the entire executive because he's the CS interior, he's the CS everywhere. He's again the only person controlling the institution that would have saved this country, called the National Assembly. So hata kama tutakaa hapa, because Hillary, I like saying, and because you like quoting Pressure Point as a place whereby we have to come, present our petition, and also look for a solution. A solution of this country, a solution to a problem as a country. We cannot massage William Ruto. As we sit here today, William Ruto is in a coalition with individuals who are ready to invest in what we call violence. When young people are discussing in forums how they will go protect the vote, how will they come out in large number, they are busy now arranging goons on how goons will unleash terror on people. The policemen that we are seeing that are reigning with impunity will be tasked to protect these ballots. But it is evident the police, as currently constituted, is serving the political class. Now, where do we go as a country? Where do we go, Hillary, as a country? Because we cannot forever be preaching to an individual who has once, not once or twice, dismissed people, even us in spaces, as just waste timers or wankers. We need to get serious. We really need to get serious. And that is where now Anthony and the other individual, all those points together. Kuna wale watu wanafaa kufanya nafasi yao kama wanasheria. Because as much as I love and would want to speak very good things about our judiciary at some point allowed William Ruto to infiltrate it. They are only realizing it a bit late that they were dealing with a monster. And it is a little bit too late because he has entrenched mikono yake impunity to levels that cannot be explained. So saving our country will require a collective responsibility as politician, na watu ambao wanataka kuwa viongozi wa kesho, watu ambao wanataka kuingia lile bunge wabadilishe mambo vile yanavyofanyika. We don't want robots that have been programmed to rubber stamp executive decisions. And us doing that, kila mtu apigane na level yake vile anafaa kupigana. Those in the law fraternity kindly push how the judiciary will speak in one language, the law society, and everybody in it calling the administration of William Ruto out. Wale ambao tutakuwa ni wa kuongoza vita ambazo ni za muhimu sana, ambazo ni za street, kwa sababu huko ndio tulikuja tukajua ya kwamba huyu jamaa hakuna mahali kitu ingine, there is no any other language that William Ruto and his brigade listens very keenly. It is the language of the streets. Unfortunately, as the GNZ and millenniums and other people currently sit, he has infiltrated it and disorganized it a bit. But it is not too late. We will continue preaching the message of hope because we live in a country, even hata tukisema tunataka kuanga, sijasema watu waachane na sheria, lakini tujue ya kwamba tunaongozwa na mtu ambaye kazi yake amesahau, na amesahau kitu inaitwa sheria. Today William Ruto would have called out Eliud and told him to step aside or even sack him, several people. But he cannot do so because these are individuals that have helped him all along through impunity to get where they are. And lastly, Hillary, I want to appeal to the country. The DCI director has been nominated from this country to go and sit in a very special seat at Interpol. We have done this before as people in this republic. We want to call the people of Kenya to petition that his name must be dropped. It must be dropped. You cannot oversee impunity in this country and get rewarded. Kindly let us raise our voices. Let us stand together. And I still insist, those in the law fraternity, do your work. Let the people who are mobilizing and want to go to the street to get rid of this government, kindly do so. I learned, my friend Hillary.
Thank you so much, Ras. I really appreciate your time, and also that I give you that time. Thank you so much for giving way forward. And apart from coming here, thank you so much always. Buka, comrade, how are you doing?
I'm doing okay, Hillary. Yeah,
Yeah,
thank
long
you.
time.
It's quite a long time, but of course, I have to take this early opportunity to congratulate you, Hillary, and Redemptor for hosting this. Actually, you've been hosting quite consistently these spaces to help bring a new consciousness in our country, which is important. From where I sit as a revolutionary, I say consistency. When you are consistent, then you achieve your objective. Secondly, the other point I wanted to state on this pressure point, and also to allude to the two subsections, the state of the nation and also the unfortunate incidents and the call for justice for our fallen comrade Ojwang. It's extremely sad. It's been a bad month for the Kenyan people. But the nation, our country needs more patriots. This is important for us. We are yet to build a Kenyan culture. We are yet to build patriotism. In fact, the GNC movement is a renewal of Kenyan patriotism, where people are facing the barbarity of a backward state by the Kenyan flag and not divided. This is a new revival for a country which is quite young, like Kenya, and also that is also quite divided tribally, mainly because of the political class that ensure that the oppressed majority of the people remains as divided. So we must still call out and challenge the tribal politics that continues to be advanced in our country, because the ruling class, just like ourselves, know extremely very well that the power is with the people. So if we continue to divide the people, then they can rule as a minority for a long time. But if we offer the counter pole to their divisive politics and preach unity to death among the suffering majority of the Kenyan people, then we will consolidate the Kenyan people to finally reclaim their dignity from the people who have hijacked the Kenyan project for a few people. Because this country is being managed for the interest of a few people. This is what it's important. In fact, Hillary, I was looking at some data in the last few months, just to also appreciate, Kenya as a country. But it's important to acknowledge that the most disturbing fact that 70.3% of the Kenyan people still live in the backwardness of rural life. It basically means that the majority of the Kenyan people, even though they contribute to the national economy, but the majority of the people stays in the rural areas where they have no access to life with dignity. They have no access to good hospitals. They have no access to good roads, while they're the biggest contributor to the national economy. It's important to acknowledge this fact. And even more disturbing when you're talking about the state of the nation is that 30% of the Kenyan people who stay in urban areas, 26% of them stays in slum areas. And then only now about 9%, which is a struggling middle class, living a precarious life. The rest of the 4% that lives in lavish estates, they live in, they are mainly a landlorded class. So this is the state of the nation, where we are not even sharing the primary instrument of production, which is land, is in the hands of a few people. In fact, the landlord class are very few. That means you're not using the land for production. So where does the Kenyan money comes from? It will also interest you that even though Nairobi is the epicenter of international finance capital, majority of the money that is coming to our country is money stolen from war-torn countries in Africa. And even during the Kibaki regime, the stability that probably was being celebrated as political stability, if you look at facts, you realize that most of the dollars came from the war in Somalia and Sudan. And now we are getting even more money coming from Sudan at the moment. So, with all these indicators, the state of the nation is that Kenya is not producing. We are only importing and exporting capital, mainly from the region, and also the majority of the Kenyan people still live in very difficult situation. So it basically means that even though I will want to appreciate Advocate Miguel Zakech's assertion of the colonial legacy, I will only bolster it that it is not a legacy, just a legacy. It is a system that is equally quite entrenched. In fact, we are not just being ruled by a few people, but we are being ruled by a neocolonial system that is dominated by appointees of the former colonizers and foreign interest. If this is important, because remember, every time people go to the streets, we go to the street out of sheer necessity to bring dignity to the majority of the people and to tell the government that the failure in solving our problems peacefully as a country has stopped because there is, there is a failure in how to sort out our countries. So we go to the street to dramatize this failure and to bring out our frustrations with the government that actually rules. But the question then comes, why is it that when we go to the street, even with very legitimate demands, how is it possible that the government of the day do not respond to these legitimate demands? Quite frankly, I will say that during last year's protest, when we raised the 11 bullet points to the government, which we thought were very reasonable and legitimate in the sense of addressing the plight of the majority of the Kenyan people in regard to finance bill, how is it possible that President William Samoei Ruto and his advisors did not even sit down to interrogate the context in which the young people are going to the streets? But they either became quite arrogant about it, they dismissed the young people, and at some point, William Samoei Ruto even looked very helpless to do anything on our demands when the numbers were swelling on the streets and the demands were getting even quite clear that he must do something to be able to deflate that pressure. But it took a few people in the streets to be killed. It took a few people to be injured, a few people to be abducted, for for the presidency to rescind the anti-people finance bill. And even after rescinding this bill, he still went ahead to to implement certain austerity measures against the interest of the people. So this is a clear manifestation that President William Samoei Ruto is not acting in the common interest of the Kenyan people. But President William Samoei Ruto is captured by a few interests and his corrupt, greedy lot around it. That they're not just managing the Kenyan resources for themselves, but they're also managing the Kenyan resources in the interest of finance capital. And this is important for us to bring out. And I have looked at a few statements that William Samoei Ruto has taken even in the global world stage. From the current crisis that is going on between Iran and Israel, from the crisis that is in Ukraine and Russia, in regard to the Palestinian genocide, in regard to the Western, you realize that the position that President William Samoei Ruto continues to regurgitate is what the Washington War Consensus continue to say. So it basically means that the Kenya do not even have a position in terms of a foreign policy, save alone the local policy. So we are not just dealing with a colonial legacy; we are dealing with a neo-colonial system that has been entrenched. In fact, we are being led by by Black Europeans. If I am meant to, to call out how Bildad Kagia called them, that the white Europeans left, but the Black Europeans took the oath to run the Kenyan nation in the interest of foreign capital and not the Kenyan people. So when we're looking at the state of the nation, there are a few things that we are struggling with. For example, we are struggling with jobs. How do countries create jobs? We are struggling with food. How do countries, deal with food security? First of all, we must liberate the land. Then we can talk about food security. But as long as we have land being managed by speculators, absentee landlords, and land is not used for production, and President William Samoei Ruto tells us that biotechnology and that Bill Gates can help us to secure our food security. So I just wanted to articulate the point that we must acknowledge that the Kenyan national project has been hijacked by a few thieving elites, and they are being supported by international capital to actually dominate Kenya and exploit Kenyans' resources, land, and the people in the interest of in the interest of foreign capital and not in our country, particularly the United States that continues because look at these comrades. For example, now we are talking about the sovereignty because we want to say because sometimes we go to the street and we go to the street with one clear voice that we want to say that Kenya will never be humiliated, that no Kenyan persons will be humiliated by direct colonial rule or indirect imperial rule. But what is the biggest threat to our sovereignty in this country? We have the Batuk in Laikipia that continues to kill, they continues to import illegal things in our countries and run amok to our justice system. Nobody is holding the British Army responsible or even accountable in our country. In addition to that, we've had two other additional military bases that the United States have actually expanded. The entire, archipelago in Lamu has been handed over to the United States. Now we have another construction of unmanned drones being built in Wajir. To whose interest are these expansion militaries are happening in our country? It basically means that the United States want to use the Kenyan country as a launch pad to attack other sovereign countries around us and only put us in the line of fire. In the event of the World War III, Kenya will have to take a side. And when Kenya takes a side, it basically means that the Kenya is going to be put in the line of fire, which is something that we are unaware of, that the political class in these countries are making very dangerous choices that puts the national Kenyan project at really, highly compromised. Next year, the first quarter of next year, now that we are talking about the state of the nation, the French forces have been kicked out from the West Africa. Now Ruto has invited the French, Ruto will be hosting French Africa Summit here in Nairobi on the first quarter. Last year, when we were talking about Kenya being declared, now we have a second military base that belongs to the United States. But now the first quarter of next year, we are going to have the Africa French summit being hosted in Nairobi, and that will open another way to have another fourth military base. The French military base in our country, which is actually being chased away from the Sahel region. So we are having leaders in these countries that are auctioning our country in bits. And this is important for us to actually recognize even as we go to the street. So those are the few points I wanted to highlight, Hillary, as far as the
Thank you.
state of as far as the state of the nation is concerned. But only one rally call for justice for Ojwang.
Right.
The rally call I wanted to say is that, and I just wanted to repeat the correct position that the majority, that the President William Samoei Ruto will not deliver justice to Ojwang. This government will not deliver justice to Ojwang. It is up to us to confront the government in the streets, to confront the government in all spaces of war, to make sure that the blood of the innocent Ojwang and all the martyrs that have been killed in the street are given dignity. In fact, it even bolsters our faith to make sure that we can organize clearly to take political government to actually arrest and give dignity to the family of Ojwang and all those people that have actually died. In the closing remark, I call you all on Tuesday. We shall be having an offensive in the street. And like we always do it, we make sure that everybody's in time. We try to coordinate to make sure we can handle each other's back and make sure that all our brothers and sisters that are either killed or injured in the streets are well taken care of with dignity. We know we will go to the street. We are not sure whether we will come back homes alive, but for sure, we will be in the street on Tuesday to pronounce ourselves that this government must go home and all dignity must be given to our martyrs. This is important. Thank you all, comrades and Hillary. Hillary, can you hear me?
Yeah, Kanya
Yes, yes.
Yubuka, thank you so much for that. And yeah, somebody was asking me that why do you have some spaces running and ours running? I want to tell you that there's a lot of spaces that is being sponsored by the government allies, and we know them, and that's why you'll see big names and everything. But we are Kenyans. We are Kenyans. We'll stand alone. Big names will not help us. We have reached a point whereby it is us and it is by us. Thank you so much, Comrade Buka, for that. I want to bring Wakili Steve. Abdi alafu nani? Lina, I see Lina also is
And
here.
then we cycle back to Professor.
Yeah.
But I just want to add a little bit to what Comrade Booker said. I think I fully agree with him. What we are witnessing in Kenya today is truly new colonism, just repackaged. It's no longer about foreign flags and armies. I think it is an economic control, debt traps, multinational exploitation, puppet leadership doing the bidding of the global West. I think the people's sovereignty is being sold in broad daylight, and we must revisit, organize, and reclaim our nation. I think as you also bring Wakili, uh, there's a question for him about can the family of Ojwang sue the state for wrongful death, violation of constitutional rights, and failure to protect life? And what are the legal pathways and remedies under the public law, civil liability, or international human rights framework? Asante sana, Hilary.
Yeah, Wakili Steve. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Hilary, and I salute you for the good work you're doing. And happy Father's Day to all fathers who are present here. It's so sad that a father could not celebrate this day because his son was taken away. And the reason for that, someone was not comfortable with the post that was put online. Someone was not comfortable with the comments, which were critics on the style of leadership. Yet they have a duty to protect property and life, but instead, a young person's life was taken away in the places where we expect they're the safest to be in, a government facility which is protected by the police. I think it's so sad when we, as a country, we repeat this conversation year in, year out about the atrocities committed by the police under the supervision and the command of this regime of Kenya Kwanza, led by the President Ruto. It is so sad that we have been losing so many young people. And as LSK, we have been, our mantra has remained the same, that we must fight for the rule of law. We must stand for what is just. And we witnessed so many young people losing their lives last year, even the year before that. Since 2023, we have been losing so many people in the streets, all in the name of fighting for social justice. And this regime is hell-bent to ensure that that voice, the voice of reason, the voice for holding them accountable, is suppressed to a point that we can't even ask a question. Because when you look at all the situation that, for instance, what happened with our colleague, with our friend Ojwang, the rationale of picking him all the way from Homa Bay and transferring him to Nairobi, up to this particular moment, there is no clear explanation as to why he was being brought to Nairobi Central Police, because there is no single OB of a complaint against him from anybody. So these are concerns that boils down to the issue of, though others, you may hear some people saying that we should not politicize this matter, but there is no way we can separate this matter from the politics of the day, because the current regime is responsible for the killings that we're witnessing. Police unit is a command unit. It works with orders. There is the highest commander who gives orders to their juniors, and therefore when you see people traveling, police officers traveling all almost 400 kilometers to bring a suspect, and the family, there's no one and there has to be someone facilitating, because you know how Kenya's police work. If Kenyan's police, for instance, you're trying to report a normal case, clients report normal complaints in police, and they have to fuel their vehicles to go and source for these people they want arrested. They have to facilitate their transfers. So what was this so special with Ojwang, that he had to be picked from Homa Bay and not taken to Homa Bay police station or Homa Bay law court, or even Kisumu law court, or even Nyamira or Kisii, which are bordering around there, even Narok, which is on the way to here. But they have to travel all the way to Nairobi and ensure he's taken out. Yet they're trying to create some funny theories surrounding how he lost his life. We cannot keep quiet, and we must continue raising these voices. We must hold them accountable, and we must continue reminding the Inspector General of Police that Kenya is governed by rule of law. And if the Constitution of Kenya was crafted in 2010 with an intention of creating a police service which is going to be independent, respecting the rule of law. That's why we changed even the mode of appointment. The Kriegler report was very keen in these matters in terms of how the police recruitment, how we supervise them, the governance of the police structures, just with an aim of trying to get away from this kind of problems we are seeing today. But unfortunately, we see ourselves in the same problems, and we want to remind the Inspector General of Police and whoever is here to report to them that Kenya is a party state to the Rome Statute. And Kenya ratified the Rome Statute by enacting the International Criminal Act. We have an International Crimes Act. And in that particular provisions, we have the issues of command responsibility. You cannot be giving orders for violation of the Constitution, and you think that because your juniors are the ones you're going to throw under the bus as they used to, you as a commander, you're going to avoid this problem. This has to boil down to the commanders. We must hold them accountable. We must hold the Inspector General of Police accountable. We must hold the officers responsible accountable, not only for Ojwang's death, but for the death of more than 60 Kenyans, which we have witnessed for the last 12 months. And even other Kenyans that we have lost along the way, because these things has to come to an end. It has to come to an end, and we must raise our voices. And I wanted to respond to your question, Abdi, that whether the family has a right for compensation. Yes, they do. Yes, they do have a right to file a constitutional petition for violations of human rights, which took place in the cells and in the hands of those the Ojwang underwent when he was in the hand of the police, who were supposed to be protecting his life. They have a right for compensation. Even the victim, those who lost their lives and got tortured, those who got tortured and maimed during the protest. And it is so sad that when we saw Ruto and his cronies initially during last year trying to apologize to Kenyans, trying with an attempt to woo Kenyans by promising they are going to compensate the victims, then along the way, his soprano friend, deputy president, decided to turn around and tell Kenyans that they have nothing to compensate because you only compensate where you have admitted liability. So clearly, this shows you that this regime has no intention of respecting the law, has no intention of protecting Kenyans. And there's something I always like reminding Kenyans that if you go back in 2010, when we were voting for the 2010 Constitution, everybody in this country was voting for the Constitution, save for Ruto and his few friends. And he used his cunning lies to manipulate the church, to try and use the church to lie to the church that the new constitution was going to allow abortion, that the new constitution was going to allow gazing. And that is how he was able to mobilize around 2.5 million to vote against the constitution. Yet, all those were lies because up to date, those things are not legalized in this country. So it shows you that this man has never believed in the rule of law. He's never believed in this constitution. And that's why, as we say, even a fish rot from the head. If the head of state does not believe in the rule of law, then his juniors don't find any importance in so doing. Because myself, I'm a victim of Central Police Station. During the last year's Mandamano on the 18th of June, we were among the first responders to the people who were arrested. And we faced a lot of hostility from the police in Central Police, even including that Muragura guy who killed Rex Masai. They kicked us out of the cells of those particular the OB section. They beat up many protesters who had come to try and secure release of their colleagues and even advocates. So we have been seeing this trend even across the countries where police officers have been very mistreating family members who go to visit their victims, have been mistreating the persons who have been arrested, suspects, have been mistreating advocates who go to try and secure release of the persons who have been arrested. So there is a very serious decay in terms of respect to rule of law, decay to the justice system that is fair, and the disregard to the rights of arrested persons as envisaged in our constitution. And I think the time has come. We can't keep quiet anymore. We can't keep quiet, and we can't allow this to continue, because we know these people, the loudest noise they can hear is us speaking in one voice in our streets and pushing for the international community to intervene, because I think we have to take some people back to the Hague. If we don't do this, I don't think we are going to be safe moving forward. Ruto has failed this country the same way he did. He was very much involved in the atrocities that were committed in the year 2007. The evidence may have been manipulated that time, but this time around, the world is watching. The Gen Zs no longer rely on the conventional media to report or record. They have their phones. Evidence is all over. We have people who are willing to testify. So they may try to silence a few now, but I have faith and true belief that as long as we are willing to pay the price of revolution, which is eternal vigilance, very soon these guys, we're going to have to send them back to the Hague and have them even incarcerated in our prisons and sent to somewhere they're not going to come back to us, because we cannot be witnessing this kind of atrocities with this kind of governance where people are languishing in poverty. More than 80 to 90% of Kenyans are living below $1 a day. They can't even afford a meal for a day. Yet whenever there is a concern, such a teacher who was killed like Albert Ojwang, a teacher whom we know the kind of challenges even teachers go through. So whenever he is raising a concern and complaining, we all know how teachers are being treated and all the other civil servants across the country. So he is justifiable to complain about the problems that we're facing as a country. But we can't be silenced, and even to the extent of killing people. Yet, in an attempt to silence people from holding them accountable. DIG Langat never recorded any complaint at the Central Police Station. About. So Kenyans are now being gagged from speaking, yet we pride ourselves to be having the most progressive constitution about that safeguards the right of freedom of expression. I think we need to ensure that Tuesday we turn up in large numbers. Don't fear. And I know we are going to be intimidated. Some of them are going to try and approach us in different ways. But what we need to remember is, if we truly want to have changes, if we truly desire to live a better life that we are going to hand over to our children. Today, most of us are celebrating Father's Day, but I know most of our children are young, maybe less than 10 years. So 20, 30 years from now, what will we say that we are going to hand over to our children? Because maybe those who are ahead of us, those we thought were fighting for us, we realize they were fighting for themselves. And that's why now we want to get them off. But we must fight for a just cause. Because if we fail, the next generation is going to hold us accountable. And we have a voice, we have platforms, we're able to mobilize, we're able to speak in one voice. Let us be vigilant, reach out if you need help. If there is any legal problems that need solution, the Law Society of Kenya has been very aggressive in ensuring that we coordinate our members across the country to come in to support and aid our members who have been arrested, whichever part of the country you are. We have toll-free numbers, which we are sharing with many human rights organizations. You can always reach for support. And we must ensure that we must deal with this problem permanently. And we should not forget, even as we talk about the state of the nation, that this month, even as we fight for Ojwang's death, there are things that are going on in our parliament. There is a conversation about an increase in our taxation. There is a serious budget which is being proposed to make the life of Kenyans very difficult, a 4.2 trillion budget. And we must ensure we reject this nonsense. You cannot be asking for more money, yet you can't account for the little that we have given you. Even the Bible condemns such kind of behavior. So, Hillary, just keep the fire burning. Patriots and fellow Kenyans, let us not fear. Let us ensure we turn up in numbers. As lawyers, we shall be on the ground in the police stations. Those who need help in court, we shall be there, and we're not going to bow back. And I'm happy to see my Professor Migaya Ketch. Thank you and salute you.
Thank you. Thank you. Redemptor, you want to say something?
Yes, I have a question for Akili. Steve, thank you very much for your submission. Two questions, actually. One is the threshold for economic crime, even as you talked about ICC. I'll keep it brief. You understand what I'm asking. The other one is, with all the reassurance you're giving about legal assistance, we've seen the governor of Nairobi being told to get his men or his boys. What can we do as Kenyans when it is the leaders who are promoting goonism? What can LSK do for us? Because those are very powerful statements from people that should protect us, who are saying they are protecting their city. They have actually made it their city. That's my question. And I see Chalo Mwaki also, maybe you get an opportunity to give us the legal perspective. Asante, Wakili, and Hillary, back to you.
Wakili, you want to go? Wakili Stephen Mbugua.
Yes. The issue that we are seeing of governor trying to be, I saw some MCA trying to whip him to mobilize some goons, which I think they also did during the last Mandamano, to come and destabilize the demonstration. We need to psychologically be aware that this is a war. It may not be a war where we are pulling guns towards the state, or the way we are seeing happening in Iran and Israel, but it's a war to fight for to redeem our country and to redeem our lives. There will be going to be resistance, which we are seeing from those who are already in position, those thugs and corrupt fellows who don't want to be held accountable. That's why you see they're trying to misuse our fellow brothers, because even those who are being hired or told to fight us, they're not doing any better. These are just our colleagues and our friends and our brothers and our sisters who are being picked from a particular section of the country to become and used through particular economic gain to fight those who are fighting for a just cause. But one thing I can respond and assure you, redemption, is that what is of importance, and to remember, our strength lies in numbers. And I'm saying this because when it comes to ground and goons being hired and being brought in the field, our work is in numbers and ensuring we collect evidence, we record them. But as long as we are many, I can tell you, personally, I was in the ground on 25th of June. And the reason why everything happened the way it happened is because of numbers. Numbers makes life easier. Numbers makes the opponent run away, because no matter how much the governor of Nairobi may attempt to fight back, he can't hire 1 million people or 1,000 people to come and fight us back. They always get a few people to come and intimidate people with rungus. But I can assure you that with numbers, we can be able to push them back. With numbers, we can be able to ensure that their small voice is suppressed. So this one, we're gonna have to remember that we have to be to roll our sleeves up and be prepared to face these numbers by increasing our numbers and raising more awareness. The LSK has filed a number of petitions in court, and we are expecting to get directions. And I'm saying this also reminding you that we have been having a very big challenge with this government, that we get court orders. During last year's Mandamano, we took a number of orders from Malindi. We got an order about the use of police using tear gases, using poisonous gases, using hiding their faces. But we were there. We still saw them doing the same thing, going against the court orders. So we need to remember that we are dealing with people who don't respect the rule of law. That's why I started my conversation with the fact that this regime is headed by someone who steered a campaign to vote against a constitution. So we must be prepared to know that they have to fight back, but we must be ready to fight for our country without fear. And how do we do this? We must turn up in large numbers. We must ensure that we get even their faces. That's how we're going to corner them. That's how we're going to win this war. This war needs both ground and court, because we know very well that we get orders, these guys may not obey them in full, so that we need to have them for our safety, but we must be in the field with water and our handkerchiefs and our flags raised very high with our chest, very bold, not to fear or be intimidated by a few goons who are holding a rungu. Na wale hata mchezo tunadili now.
Asante Wakili for your submission. Just quickly, I want to acknowledge Alhaji Amin, mwanaharakati mkongwe wa a fearless voice who has always stood for truth and justice, and also Senior Counsel Mwite Karibuni, and also Wanjiru, you can always pick up the mic. I will leave at that before we bring Lynn. Prof, if you want to chime in, that is okay. And then Lynn, and then we bring Cairo. Thank you. Prof, you want to chime in? Okay, Lynn, the mic. Okay, Professor, go ahead.
Sure. I mean, for me, it just to encourages to keep going. We cannot stop. As you see, we're being oppressed. Huh? What happened to Albert Ojwang is unacceptable. It must never happen again. So the advocacy, the demonstrations must keep on, must go on. Particularly the advocacy for reforms must go on. And as I keep saying, we've been at this for a very long time. For me, the idea of IPOA was excellent, and that's why I wrote about it before it happened in 2005. I wrote about it, but in terms of how the idea has been articulated in our laws, it still leaves a lot to be desired, because I don't think IPOA is an effective institution. So I think we must ask for more. So, for example, IPOA is now saying that they need powers to prosecute, and we must support that, and we must insist. And if we don't, nothing will change. And so, getting a better IPOA, getting better people in IPOA. Because when you see, for example, what AOCO has been telling us on XSpace about the kind of relationships that members of IPOA have with the powers that be, it does not augur well. It's just telling us that this is not an independent institution. You see, we're being taken for a ride by the lies from the IG, the Inspector General, and the Mohammed Amin, the director of DCI. So we must demand for more, and I think we must not let this matter. We must not let the police get away with the murder of Ojwang. And for me, from what I see, they've been doing this a long time. It's just that this time, for some reason, they got caught out. But this is just the way they've been doing things. This is their modus operandi. So unless we keep insisting, unless we keep demonstrating, unless we keep the advocacy, those of us who are in the business of research, such as myself, we must keep writing about it. And it gives me a lot of joy that there are young upcoming academics in this space that are on this. I'm talking about people like Joshua, he knows himself. I'm talking about people like Ndong, who are very active in these spaces. So we must keep this conversation going, but above all, we must be insisting on reforms, both in parliament, in terms of the legislation, and in the courts, in terms of repealing the Computer Misuse and Cyber Crimes Act. These are things that we must do urgently, because otherwise, if we don't do this, we will keep being oppressed. And every time that these institutions of horizontal accountability, as I call them, every time they advertise for appointments, they appoint people, we must be there to make noise, to question things. Are we appointing the right people? What were the criteria? Is there accountability from the selection panels, from the appointment panels? Because unless we get the right people in these spaces, nothing will change. But fortunately, we have a constitution that creates spaces for change to happen. It's a matter of how we use these spaces. It is noise, it is advocacy, and it is research and articulation of the advocacy and the research for me. Thank you very much.
Asante sana wakili. Thank you, Professor. We go to Lynn. Lynn, the mic is yours.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Good. Thank you. Good evening to all of you. And happy Father's Day to those of you who stand up to be counted. I think it's a good segue to pick from where Professor left it, that there needs to be all those things drawn together to find solutions, research, articulation of certain things, noise, and leveraging all those spaces and the provisions that are provided for within the Constitution to change. Because we must change. Otherwise, even the state of the nation, first of all, Hillary, messed up. If what we've seen is what we call leadership, teenage bullies in adult bodies, is despicable, and I think we're going nowhere that way. I think I wanted to come here to say that it is important for all of us to think that in addition to everything that is going on, I think there needs to be a plan, there needs to be a strategy of how to do what is happening. I think all these observations of what's going on, taking stock, I think Buka made a very good point by saying there is nothing to expect from here. And I think I even catch myself sometimes forgetting and watching the news and watching the circus, except it is such tragic comedy and you cannot laugh. We're supposed to be dealing with intelligence. The guys, and I must start by saying condolences to the Ojwang family and Kenyans at large, because everyone has really it's just been so revolting, and it's just another the inspectorate, the intelligence, the investigative. If that is what you call intelligence, we're in a real mess and we're going nowhere. And I think we really must try and think out how you counter
what they are doing. Because if you look at today, there are 3 more people who have been arrested, and they've been saying they're the ones who are used to administer the torture. Who sent them? That's a question. And why are we being taken round the bend every which way before we get to anything? So I think it's for me, I think it's easier to not hope for anything, as Booker said. And because we cannot hope for anything, and because we're here, and we're here rightfully, and we must continue to be here, then we must have a plan of our next steps. And I think that is what I'd like to encourage us to do, whether it's done here, whether it's done somewhere else. I think I have full confidence in Kenyans, the Kenyans who are here, all of you, the patriotic Kenyans, the Pan Africans, who will think about how to counter the neo-colonial and exploitative capitalist monopolists, as Buka was saying, and all the extraction that we are going through. And this is only made possible by the overzealous so-called dealers and auctioneers and traders who are trading with our people and with our country. And sometimes so gleefully and so stupidly that they don't even realize they're not even getting a good deal, even for themselves. But I think, and as far as this is concerned, and I'm thinking also from a Pan-Africanist perspective, to treat us as foreigners, and this is the kind of arrangement we want, and people behave accordingly. I have seen even U.S. ambassadors coming and cursing at a minister because and coming and advising the diplomatic corps and saying, here we have to be careful. This government is dealt with like this, like this, like that, and that is possible, and it is also possible because we have seen what is happening in the Sahel. It is also possible because we have seen what is happening in Botswana. And therefore, I think that in addition to what we are doing, there needs to be people who can come together and help hatch a plan. Because these guys, you've given them everything, and they are taking even much more than you give them. So they'll be able to buy evidence. They will even kill and even be able to go and support the families of the bereaved. They will splash your money, and that is such tragedy that they can be allowed to mock life and mock the intelligence of Kenyans to that level. So I think I just wanted to say, I know that Hillary says what is the plan. I think the plan should be deliberate, intentional, and purposeful, hatching out a counter plan. And I think most of you, knowing what you know what Prof is talking about, what IPOA is and should be, and we would like it to be, and it's not, and we know that it's not. We can't just sit there and expect that justice is going to be delivered. I think Steve is saying rightly that the constitution is there, the provisions are there. In fact, within and without, because we are part of the family of nations, and we also have international laws that Kenya has ratified, and we're bound by those as well. But when you have the teenage bullies disrespecting everything, and then having the mtadu whatever attitude, what do you do? And I think in that sense, because we're not having choppers to go to rallies and money to splash and buy people and confuse Kenyans. I think there has to be a better way to counter it. Or even as Hillary was saying, to play these psychological games of hosting spaces with big names. Those big names can only be as big as they have integrity. They can only be as big as they mean well for this country and as they are patriotic and they are humanistic. Otherwise, it means absolutely nothing to be in a tie and suit and inside you have nothing, you stand for nothing. So to conclude, I would like to thank all of you for the commitment and for providing this space so that good Kenyans can come here and share thoughts. And I would like to encourage Buka, yourselves, and everybody else to find time to sit together and actually try and see what concretely can be done. So I think I landed that. Thank you.
Asante sana. Thank you. Thank you for that presentation. I think we're on the top of the hour and we will be shortly closing. So I will go. Russ, I see your hand is up. Do you have anything you wanted to say for 1 minute before I go to Kairu and then to Timothy and then to Kialo?
Thank you, Abdi, and thank you, Hillary. I think this is very important because Wakili had touched on it, and it is a calling, it is a national calling. I know there have been deliberate efforts to sell the fear amongst the people of Kenya who want to come out and call the bad manners of impunity. I want the people of our good country to know that sometimes we will have to make very painful sacrifices. And the sacrifices means that we go out of the way and now organize ourselves. Ignore what the governor of Nairobi has said. We are aware he has been tasked, he has been given the resources to give it to the boys that you are familiar with their names. As the people of Embakasi East and others, I know the 2 days, and this is a communication that is supposed to send to you guys a lot of encouragement. We have made our own security arrangement and we will protect. Sisi wenyewe tutajikinga na tutakinga wale wengine ambao watakuwepo kwa maandamano. So don't get afraid of coming to stand with fellow Kenyans. Don't buy the fear factor. We understand Farouk today in Alari in Western Kenya, I think, taxed Sakaja. And these are the clips that people should keep for future reference, because this is a clear indication that they want to sponsor violence among us. But in the event we go out and buy that fear, then we will tell the time they tried to go to book a house and use some funny characters to go and assassinate him. Buka responded. That is the kind of response that this regime understands. So in case Governor Sakaja will respond using his goons, the people of Kenya will defend themselves. Thank you.
Thank you. Asante sana. Let's go to Cairo and then we go to Timothy and then Kialo as we cycle back to our panelists for the closing remark. Asante sana. Cairo, the mic is...
Let Timothy go first as I charge my phone, then I'll take after Timothy.
Okay, Timothy, go ahead. 2 minutes, sir. Timothy, are you there? Okay, Timothy is not there. Kialo, please speak up.
Hello, good evening.
Yes, good evening.
Yes, I wanted to highlight the issue that was raised concerning goons infiltrating protests and how to deal with it, because it's a pertinent issue and it happened last year and I was also there, and we were able to get some people arrested. Now, with that issue, the way goons show up in the protest, they are usually armed. Okay, they're usually armed. Now, the best way is to overwhelm them with numbers, and you can actually conduct a citizen's arrest. If Wakili can concur with me that Section 34 of the Criminal Procedure Code allows for a citizen's arrest. A citizen's arrest basically entails an ordinary person like you and me, that is, conducting an arrest where a person who you reasonably believe to have committed an offense, or in this case, damaged property. And the reason we say people carry their phones is not just to take selfies. Those phones are used as evidence, the content. You take a photo, video, record what's happening, what's transpiring, who you guys are arresting, and the offense that he committed. Okay, so when you hand him over to the police, it's not seen as something you've acted out in malice. But since the protest is an adrenaline, it's an adrenaline filled event, the best way to conduct it is to, there are a few, please go back to your team or your clique where they are, because these guys are armed. They are carrying nyaunyos, they are carrying batons. Okay, some have iron bars, some have stones. So the best way is to overwhelm them with numbers and arrest them physically. When you read the Criminal Procedure Code of Kenya, it details on how an arrest is. An arrest is physically confining a person's freedom. Okay, you can use your hands, and if they resist, you can equivocally resist in force, but do not use more force than is necessary. Okay, so that is one way you guys can resist, because even in the Bible, in the book of James, chapter 4, thereon, it says that if you resist the devil, he will flee from you. You need to show these people you are not punks, you mean business, and your country is at stake. So hooligans cannot just come and sabotage a noble movement, and you will not allow that. Okay, so that is the feedback that I wanted to give people with regard to how to deal with goons. And if some of them are in this XSpace, they must know vandalism of property, attacks on people, assaults. Once we record you, take your photo, and represent you to the police, we can actually follow up and make sure you're prosecuted to the full extent of the law. Okay, so that's the issue I just wanted to highlight. Thank you.
Asante sana, asante sana. Cairo, do you want to go before we
Yes.
go? Okay, go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. What I would like to conclude is that it is professionals or experts that protect oppressive regimes. That being said, we need to arm ourselves as has never experienced the second liberation. The first liberation was hijacked because our forefathers, in their own small ways, they knew little English, they knew just little education, but they were able to do much. Now, because of that little liberation they were able to give us, we were able to, access education to the highest level possible, access technology and all those things. So we have to fight this government aura for aura. There is a lawyer somewhere defending this oppressive regime. There is a doctor somewhere supporting this oppressive regime to come up with oppressive health laws. There is a teacher somewhere supporting this regime to oppress teachers. There is a police somewhere, trained supporting this regime. There is an agriculturist somewhere supporting this oppressive regime. So we as the people must gang up and say we are going to stand up and speak the truth and defend this nation with the tools that we know best. Yeah, I think Professor has told us about the constitutions. We have a constitution we can stand with and fight with it to the bitter end, so we can have lawyers ganging up together. So when people go for these protests, I like what the Law Society has been doing, and the various lawyers how they've been doing it. I like the way the pathologists stood and wrote the correct thing. They did not doctor that document for Albert. They wrote as truthful as possible. I like the CEO of Bagadi. They ensured that CCTV came out. They were professionals. They ensured there must be justice for Albert. They did their part. So you as an individual, wherever you are, so long as you're a professional, you must stand up and say you are going to do the right thing, because everybody here is a candidate of oppression. Everybody here is a candidate of a bad policy. You cannot say it cannot affect you. I remember in the 80s, people used to think HIV/AIDS cannot affect them in one way or another. But round the corner, when people didn't take take it seriously, you realize one way or another you are affected. So we cannot be putting a long stick and saying Mimi is in effect. It will affect you one way or another. Right now, parents, as I said earlier on, CBC is actually affecting them. The children that are going through that system are going to be so fragmented. It will hurt them in the next 15 years. But we kept quiet. We kept silent. So you may be saying my child will not go through so hard, or a system can hit you so hard, and maybe you wish that police officer was professional enough to just do their job to secure your property and or even save a life. So it is up to us. And I want to congratulate Professor when you keep talking to when you teach your students, the lawyers, and you insist they have to do good. They have to stand for justice. They have to stand for law. That is what we would encourage to continue going on. So you as an individual, you're a manager somewhere, you have a business somewhere, you are hiring young people, train them and show them to have what we call professionalism, starting with integrity. Integrity will come from us. Remember, I said earlier on that country lacks a value system. Yani, we live in a system whereby integrity. For example, if someone comes to me, like for example, when they were making those shallots, I stood to it and I told them these laws are oppressive. The informal sector will not be able to actually access, but there's somewhere in the government who has now introduced loans for these patients to actually access loans. They're buying premiums using loans. That tells you it's a professional somewhere supporting oppressive laws. So that's the challenge I will pose, and I will encourage, if you're in an association, ask your association leaders, especially if you're here and you're a teacher. I am expecting tomorrow, in the coming week, teachers to shoot down their tools until the perpetrators of those who ensure that Ojwang died, they should actually be brought to book. And then the other associations of other professions, we are going to follow suit and support them. That is the best we can do. We cannot just wait for the students or the young Gen Zs who are out there from college and schools are the one fighting for rights. We too are, the millennials are somewhere. You have been given a position somewhere. You have a way of influencing. Do your little thing, instill justice, instill integrity, so that the next time the regime will be so cautious they cannot do anything. When you go to a police station to be served, they are cautious because they don't know who you are. You don't have to be a wakili or know someone high up. Just because you're a Kenyan citizen, they should start fearing us, because we are their employers. We are the taxpayers. So we need to get what we deserve, and we should not be begging. Actually, we look like and the constitution defends us. Asante sana.
Asante sana. Thank you so much. Now we'll just be doing our closing remark, 2 minutes. I'll start with Dr. Kimani as we go to Comrade Buka and then to Lynn. Dr. Kimani, the mic is yours for 2 minutes closing remark. Then we cycle to the professor for his closing remarks. Dr. Kimani, okay, we don't have Kimani. Comrade Buka, can you do your closing remark for 2 minutes? Thank you.
We have to comprehensively understand the Kenyan society and with clarity identify who the enemy of the Kenyan people is and who are the friends of the Kenyan revolution. This is important for us. And every day we appear humbly before the masses is to try and learn before them and also to help them identify the clear enemy of the people. On Tuesday, as we go to the street, let's remind ourselves that we are giving our best contribution to our generation to make sure that we can hand over a future, to our children, our grandchildren that have mattered since the fight for independence to date, in terms of helping us and many generations to expand this, democratic space to be able to advance a just and a fair world. We hope that we will be able to carry their banners and their flags higher on Tuesday to make sure that we remind the Kenyan people that Dedan Kimathi was not hanged for nothing, that Rex Masai was not murdered for nothing, that Ojwang was not murdered for nothing. And all of us that are going to the streets on Tuesday, those of us who will survive President William Samoei Ruto's violence, will continue with the struggle to make sure that we can save this country, we can build a better Kenya for all of us. For those of us who, for some who may not make it on Tuesday, of course, we are sure that the people who would be left behind could continue to advance the struggle for a fair nation. This is my humble call to all of you, comrades, to turn out in large. We cannot sit home and die only at home. This is important. And I also want to echo the point that Russ made that when we arrive in the street, let's make sure that we help the people who are coming to the street for the first time to make sure that they can stay safe. Let us also make sure that we bring out with clarity that the police stations are not the safest places. So if you can protect a comrade from being arrested, it's better to deal with it after than to let the comrade go to jail to be murdered there. So I think we have adopted with clarity that jail is not the safest place for mental issues. I hope that you will actually overcome these mental issues after President William Samoei Ruto and the entire system falls flat. That's all I wanted to say. Thanks. And
Asante sana.
Abdi.
Asante sana. Thank you for your part. I'll cycle back to Lynn for closing remark before I go to Prof. Lynn, the mic is yours. Okay, so I can't get Lynn. Professor, your closing remarks? Redemptor, you can hear me?
Yes, I can.
So, Professor, your closing remarks, Lynn? Okay, as we wait, Redemptor, you can go.
Yes, I want to thank you. Yes, I want to thank you, Abdi, and Hillary, the hosts with the most, for the long work, the long time it's taken you to get us here. And it's unfortunate we always have to explain to people why we do this and why we are not working with Group A or Group B, because even when it was just 50 people, Pressure Point and myself in another space, we continue to hold conversations for this reason, that when unchallenged power, when unchecked power meets silence, then the incident that happened last Sunday continues to happen. Last Sunday we convened here, and most of us were cautious, those who like to fact check before we speak. We were very skeptical. We were dismayed about someone hitting their head on the wall. So you can imagine when the images of the body of Albert Ojwang did the rounds, what that did to all of us, the sense of betrayal, even by people who should know better, and more so, the devastation of if they made careless mistakes or if it was intentional mistakes. No, they feel invincible. They've been doing this and they didn't anticipate that a son of nobody, in quotes, could rise the whole nation, could touch the hearts of millions of Kenyans. And I've said this, at 31, Albert Ojwang has touched more lives than many 70-year-olds who are perpetrators of cruelty and impunity and corruption. And I think we are making a statement that this could be us. This could be our son. This could be us. And I began by saying, I am Albert if I'm a digital activist. I am Albert if I'm a son, if I am a father, if I'm an active citizen across Kenya, not just in one county. Are also saying he's our son. And that's the uniqueness of this moment, that they assumed so much. They got so careless to the extent one Robert Lai, is that what he's called? Elias. He said it's just one man. How can the whole AG and all these people? The most shocking thing for me is people holding holy books and taking an oath. And Musinirushia Mawe, because I observe human behavior, I profile to document perpetrators of atrocities, and I observed the IG was looking very perplexed, very disturbed, but the other men standing behind him were stoic. A few had troubled looks on their faces, but clearly the IG was troubled. Servants, my father was one. I tested the civil service for 10 years, and I know I didn't disturbed as a nation. Very senior officers would make a statement and write a statement. He banged his head on the wall. Even the person was typing that statement, because there are many, someone pointed out there's a hierarchy. There's a protocol when you write a statement. And I repeat, they thought there was a script. They preempted what would happen in June, because they know June 25th is around the corner, and they had a plan. But they got too excited about silencing the voices of dissent. They got careless. They got so inhuman that I believe we are going to see another CCTV. Not one, not two. And the person who was here, who specializes in documentation, asked a very good question. What happened in Narok? I wrote the work of fiction and said, no, they didn't give him soda and water because he asked for it. They probably had a nyama choma, And so I speak to our forces, I speak to our officers. Please, you've seen this week that protecting your bosses is not protecting your company. And so I hope most of you are going to become informants, and that this is where it stops. This is where the buck stops. And we speak, Abdi and Hillary, we speak also to give people therapy and to give hope that there are Kenyans who are not afraid. Why should we live in fear? Every week, sometimes statements that sound like goons take a mic, and we take a mic to heal, to reconcile, and to speak truth to power. The way Kenya is running right now, I'm sure when we log off this space, we'll find over 10,000 people logged in, probably 3,000, 2,000, 1,000, even 50 people is a number that is stopping everything to be in an assembly without being in choppers. We are still reaching you and saying, we do this because we defend truth. And I said, there's nothing as dangerous as a goon with a mic, with a phone, and in front of a camera. But equally, there's nothing as powerful as someone who defends justice when they get courageous. And that's what happened to Albert Ojwang. We pay our tributes, we send our condolences, and yet the other things we have to talk about, which are also happening behind the cover of this darkness, that as come over our nation. Where is this money coming from? It's not making sense. And please do not brutalize people and give them money. I hope it is justice we seek first, and then we do mchanga to show love and solidarity. The family of Ojwang, like many families, are also supposed to think about Kinyanjui. Please, if you're from Nakuru, please make a poster. Let's know who Kinyanjui was shot last week. Every life that is lost, let someone remember that person so that families don't think we only care about a few people. So Ojwang represented Kenya, Gen Zote, tribeless, leaderless, and people who like to defend truth. And we finish always with the words of the anthem. Mungu nguvu yetu, ilete baraka kwetu, haki, 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 iwe ngao na mlinzi. Thank you so much, Hilary and Abdi, for the opportunity, and all the speakers. What you've been doing for so many years in terms of the Kenya being a better country. Buka, Chalo, Ras, Lynn, Cairo, you're so passionate. Please, next time ucharge simu mapema na ukuje mapema. Dr. Kimani, Afri, Diana, and all the people who don't ask for the mics, but you are our listeners. You cannot University did a candle lighting. The love that I've seen for this young man touches my heart, breaks my heart at the same time, because he deserved better. He deserved to live. So on Wednesday, if you can join me from 9 o'clock, we still continue to pay tribute and of Kenya. And tafadhali, waheshimiwa mnapenda kuitwa hivyo. Nobody is forcing you to be our leaders. If you're tired of us, you don't want to hear us talking, you can talk in Harambes, but we can't talk here. You can resign. This is too much for you. Abdi, asante sana. Have a good day, whatever time you are at. Hilary, asanteni.
Thank you, Redemptor. Thank you. You said it all. I think I believe tonight we didn't just speak. We felt, we cried, we remembered, we stood in the gap where the government failed. We did what a nation do for its people. I think we showed up. Albert Ojwang, as you said, was not just a hashtag. He was a son, a brother, a teacher, a friend. He had a future. He had people who loved him, and all of that was stolen by those who wear the uniform of the state, but we ought to carry out. Just got happened to go off. Someone was paid 3,000 shillings to make his pay disappear. What do you do with this, with that pain? I think Albert father has to live every day with that reality. But the good thing, he's not alone, because when Albert died, we inherited a responsibility. His story is no longer his family burden. It's a nation's mirror. Let be known will not be let his name be erased, will not let his life be reduced to a footnote. We will not let mothers sleep easy while the mothers and the fathers of this country cry themselves to sleep. To the officers and leaders hide behind in silence and spin, you may escape courtrooms, but you cannot escape the people's memory. And that memory is long and just and rising. I think Kenya is not theirs to kill, it is ours to protect. Albert's life mattered as this moment matters. What we do with our voice now will decide whether this country heals or hardens. I think to Albert family, we see you. So say his name, Albert Ojwang. It is with the truth. Say it with fire. Say it until justice answers. Thank you. Over to you, Hillary.
Oh, wow. Wow. Guys, it was a wonderful conversation. Prof, are you here, or Lynn? maybe it is late also. Thank you so much, Abdi. Thank you so much, Ademta, Comrade Book, and all the guests, all the speakers, everybody. We really, really appreciate, and all the time we are so humble to have you every Sunday to make this conversation. But before Sunday, you do something. So Sunday we come report. We are coming with a lot of documents as pressure point team, and soon a lot of documents as pressure point team, and soon they'll be out to all as quick as we can, so that we can amplify the same. Otherwise, may God bless you. God be with you. Kenya one, Kenya people, let us make it alive. It is us. It is us, and the coming generation. Our generation must have a better country. If our forefather did it, we can do it better. May God bless you. A wonderful night, wonderful morning, wonderful evening. Till Sunday, same time, same place, guys. Thank you so much. We are really, really humbled. Bye.